When I was doing a lot of stenciling and screen printing, I have to like test stuff if I was like making a stencil. And for my band at the time, the stencil was Roy Scheider from Jaws ripping off a woman's suit from the movie Naked Lunch. So to test it, I just used it on all of my underwear, and it was red spray paint. So for a while, like if your pants fell down, it just looked like I had blood coming out of my ass. But if you straightened it up, it was Roy Scheider. So like, I had like 12 pairs of Roy Scheider butt briefs. I wish I still had that stencil.
Butt briefs.
Welcome back, everyone, to S1E1, show where each week we pick a different sitcom, watch just the first televised episode, and forgetting anything we might know about the future run of that show, rate it and decide if it's a show we want to greenlight or cancel. This week we're going to be talking about Lopez vs. Lopez. Lopez vs. Lopez went 22 episodes with one season on NBC. They were talking about episode 1, which was called Pilot, originally airing November 4th, 2022. To get things started, I'm Jay Gags. With me, as always, the boys, Joe, Ferg, Nick, and Gordo. What's going on, guys?
Yo.
Yo.
I'm just here to get my nuts snipped.
And I do want to mention Lopez vs. Lopez still going on, renewed for a second season. So sometimes in my intro it might sound like the show is over with when I say one season, but
there's no TV right now, so it's just all
But it's
hibbity-bibbity.
I feel like the ratio of shows we do, like that are still going to, have long since, completed.
It's very low.
It's rare when we do shows that still exist.
I think that might be even harder now because I'm pretty sure they canceled like half of everything that was actively a TV show before their strikes.
That's true.
Oh, probably.
That was the whole point.
So how's everybody doing, by the way?
All right.
Great.
All right.
I'm good.
A little curtain behind the curtains. Everyone is tired right now because we just spent an hour troubleshooting before we started recording.
We're starting like a half hour later than we normally do.
An hour and a half later.
You can't time. That's the reality of the situation. This isn't debatable.
Yeah, I don't know.
So S1E1pod.com. That's where you can find all of our links to our socials. S1E1pod on X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, all that. Hit us up. We like to talk to all of you guys. It's fun to know that you guys are listening and how you found us and what shows you want us to cover. So keep doing that. We really appreciate it. Also, we post all kinds of videos and different graphics on them. So again, S1E1 pod on those. So Lopez versus Lopez. We did George Lopez a while ago. And now this show, just George Lopez's newest sitcom, not a continuation of the old.
There's a middle one too we haven't done.
What was the other one?
Yeah.
It's just called Lopez. It was on oh god, what is the Nick at Night channel?
Man, he's creative as fuck.
TV
isn't
Land.
he?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, we went from George Lopez to Lopez versus Lopez, which I'm very excited to see what the fourth show will be called. I love George Lopez, by the way. That's not shitting on the man. But there is a middle Lopez sitcom I've never seen that went two episodes in the mid-2000s.
George
seasons,
Lopez.
The next one is just called George.
I bet there's already a show called George. There has to be.
Did George Foreman have a show called George?
He actually may have.
Show, did he? Other than his talk show?
He had 5 kids named George.
Am I weirdly confusing that with Rock, though? The Charles S. Dutton sitcom from the early 90s?
Oh, Charles S. Dutton, maybe.
Who doesn't love Charles S. Dutton? He has a great turn on The Sopranos.
Don't give us a reason.
Charles S. Dutton is a huge actor. He's in Surviving the Game.
Come on,
He has his
Joe.
own sitcom. He has his own goddamn sitcom. He's one of the greatest Sopranos secondary characters ever.
Joe does have another podcast. It's called Sutton on Dutton.
I would love that podcast. Does nobody here enjoy the movie Surviving the Game?
Joe,
I have no idea.
I don't know how many times
What?
you want to go down this road.
Ice-T, Gary Busey. It was on TNT like every Saturday when we were
I
kids.
know
Oh,
those
That's what I did
okay.
every Saturday.
See, Gordon knows what I'm talking about.
I've only no. I only know the reference because The Simpsons did it. When Nelson put it on and went, "The game is on." That's the only reason why I know it exists.
Well, they were actually more riffing on the Deadliest Game, the sort of...
Oh, okay, then no, I have no idea what the
Then
fuck
you
you're
put
talking
that book-
about.
Mm. Okay, if you want to see Gary Busey on fire running through a building trying to murder Ice-T, then you should check out this movie. That was amazing from the 90s. That I'm sure a lot of our fans, I'm going to get messages because I do all the time when I mention stuff that you guys shit on. They're like, that movie fucking rules.
From like
No
your
one messages
friends.
you.
Not
No.
like random
I got
people.
messages.
It's
I got
like
a
your
message
friends
from
who like the same
a
shit.
fan, a listener today, who I do not know in real life, talking about one of the things that you guys shit all over. So
Which
they're
was
out
what?
there.
We
What did
don't
they say?
The
believe you.
Joeys, as I like to call them. I'm going to put them in my pouch, and I'm going to carry them around with me, and we're going to watch all the movies, and it's going to be fantastic.
We don't believe you because it wasn't on our social media. It's your sock puppet account.
No, because most of our social media, Gordo, is you with 15 burner accounts telling us that Gordo's jokes were funny. It's not.
Gordo's the
what
first
really
case
happens.
of someone catfishing himself.
Why are you gonna say that? I'm like cute. I wouldn't be a catfish.
Okay. Well, anyways,
Catfishes are cute. They look like Charles Bronson.
Who?
Oh, fuck you, Nick. Do not do that to Charles Bronson. How fucking dare you?
as far as Lopez versus Lopez goes, so I want to go over a couple quick scores. Rotten Tomatoes has no like official score, just the audience one, which I thought was weird because it's a new show. But 61% from audience scores, and then IMDb at a 6.0, so right around the same level for both of them.
They must have refused to pay Rotten Tomatoes for good
Right, the
reviews.
critics at Rotten Tomatoes. The racket we found out that is.
But I mean, as far as the audience scores goes for both, I mean, we're sitting at a D- here for Lopez
You
versus
know what? I
Lopez.
agree with the rating at least. Right in the middle.
Look, I'm going to say, I think it's a C- more than a D-, but I will say this, a show about TikTok that I don't despise is a weird Joe anomaly.
I can't wait to get into that because I know, like, we've talked about this, and I should bring it up, but Joe, you've mentioned before that you watched this show, right?
Yeah, I've seen every episode.
So, and I'm gonna guess you're the only one for Gordo, Nick, anyone? Definitely not Gordo.
I've
but
never seen it, not
No.
even in
Yeah.
passing. No.
I'm aware of the show. I never watched it. And then knowing
I
that you were
planned
the only
on it.
one who did, and then seeing that it starts with a TikTok thing, and we'll get into that when we start diving
Yeah,
in.
we'll get into it, but TikTok is, look, there's a bunch of things that watching this would be Joe red flags, and it's the charm of George Lopez and the fact that he is the opposite of it that
What,
makes it work for
the
me.
charm of him calling his daughter a bitch? Like,
Look, that's one scene, okay?
I agree with Joe. I've always had a soft spot for George Lopez for some
Agreed.
reason. I don't. He's just one of those people, and I'm sure you can all think of your own examples of this. He just is like always funny to me. Like,
Yeah.
he doesn't have to be like actively trying to be funny. He just makes me giggle, just like his existence. And I don't know. He just always has. But I will say, without getting too far into it, this show might be one of the hardest for me to have ever really like diagnosed, because like there was some really like highs and lows, like peaks and valleys for how I felt about this show throughout
I felt
the
the
pilot.
same way.
So I'm still
too.
like really unsure which way I'm gonna go. So I mean, I think discussing it will help me pick a road. But this one was like really polar, and I can't think of a show we've done in a while that's made me feel like this.
I will say, Nick, I feel like I'm probably with you. We're probably going to have the same feelings on it. I will say, to me,
Who are
most of
you
those,
kidding?
though, were Lopez.
Yeah, Joe, come
Yeah,
on.
Joe,
We-
come on.
We know.
But I'm saying that there are parts of this I did not like, for sure. But the parts
I
that
didn't
make
hear
it
the
funny,
last part of what you said because they were talking.
Yeah, because I was being over-talked. That George Lopez's parts are the parts that make you probably like it the most, right?
Oh yes, yeah.
Because he has a great way of even throwing a tiny little comment in. But there's like is anyone up? He's like, I was up. Like that little shit
And it's-
kills
yeah.
you. It's
And
so
it's not
funny.
different.
Comedic timing as well.
Yes,
and he
it's
always
not
has.
It's almost
from
like he's
anything
a
else, like,
professional
it's not like-
comedian who's very good at this.
It's not a crazy range or anything like that. He's just really good at that thing, the things that he does, and he
Yeah.
leans into it, and I find it entertaining. So
What I found super interesting, and I guess this would probably be commonplace knowledge, but just to make sure that all of you know, and then anyone listening who hasn't watched the show yet, Mayan, his daughter on the show, that's his real daughter.
I did not know that. No,
I did not know that.
I
this
did
is
not know
this is
that.
like a fictionalized version of their real relationship.
Yeah, so this is his like legit daughter. I didn't know that until after I watched it the first. I watched it twice. So after the
She's
first
actually
time I
in a
watched
couple
it.
episodes of George Lopez as like a little kid.
Oh, cool.
Oh, really?
All right, so let's just get into the actual episode itself, and we'll kind of dig along as we go because we've already started teasing things throughout the episode. So it starts off with a TikTok being filmed. And one thing I'll say right off the bat, there's a couple things before I even get into what the TikTok was that visually I didn't like. The episode starts with 80% of the screen being black because they're doing it in a vertical TikTok mode and they didn't utilize the rest of the screen. And I thought they should have put something there. You know what I mean?
Oh, I like that because I felt like you were looking at a phone.
I didn't like the way it looked to intro the show for the very first time. Like they could have found a way around it. Have it so someone's watching the TikTok or something, so you're looking at the phone. I didn't like just having all that black on the screen.
Well,
Did you watch this on your computer or phone, or did you watch it on a big TV?
The first time I watched it on my phone, but still, I mean, it's still a very small fraction of the screen is being used regardless.
I just feel like it made more sense on a bigger TV than it did on my computer, because when I first watched it was on TV, and then for this episode I watched it on my computer. I noticed it more on the computer.
Didn't really bother me.
I was gonna say that if you're watching it on your phone, it seems really far away. But I wonder, with the constraints of like how a show is filmed, kind of in a rectangle, how much you can actually really utilize. Because you can't like make it full screen because then it would be sideways.
No, I understand.
You know?
That's why I'm saying don't make it so that the screen is just like if the TikTok was being aired on television with like a screen mirror. I would have had it so someone was watching it, you know, like so you're physically seeing it on the screen of the phone. Or a picture-in-picture where it's like there's ways around it. We've seen it done in other shows.
Yeah.
It's artistic choice. It didn't bother me, though.
And I would also say this. We're using the name TikTok multiple times in the show, but we're not using the actual TikTok visual interface. Like, I don't know how that works, like legality. I would assume it's all or nothing, right? If you can
No,
say
I'm sure it's
TikTok,
cheaper just to say it, because it's free advertising for them. As long as you're not saying something, it's like, you know,
why
as
can't
long
you
as you're
show
not
like the
disparaging
actual
it.
TikTok app then? Like, so the buttons in the bottom are all falsy versions to like look like a generic TikTok.
It's
It probably
strange-
costs
it's
money for...
strange that they use TikTok and not like some generic one like, oh, this is Clip Clap or like something.
Yeah,
like
we're on
that.
Click
Like,
Clock right now.
But that's what I'm saying. If you're already using the name TikTok, why can't you just show TikTok instead of
Images
using
are
copyright
copyrighted in a different
TikTok?
way, though.
Like, I feel like you can say TikTok, but
Yeah.
not
We're saying
show.
TikTok an awful lot right now. I feel like everyone get another system.
But do you know what I mean?
TikTok.
Like, I don't think you can copyright TikTok existed before TikTok.
Yeah, with the
Wake
three
up
mics
in the
ran down
morning
the clock.
feeling like P.
No, when
Diddy.
you say it in those restraints, like if this was like a legality thing and TikTok took him to court, you can't be like, I meant like a clock. You can't say I'm making a TikTok.
Well,
and
yeah,
show
I
something
guess.
that looks
Yeah,
just
that's
like
true.
the app.
I'm assuming using their like virtual interface and their like intellectual property that way would probably have an issue for streaming and rights later on. The same way shows like Drew Carey are confined by music rights, so they probably just can say it. But if you show somebody's copyrighted material, they might have grounds to like want money on the back end, you know?
I know that we've seen in the past in shows that we've covered text messages.
Yes, we've
We've
seen it
never
done good and bad.
Yes, we've seen it done good and bad, but we've never seen social media done, correct?
I don't know.
Not
in
off
this
the top of my head, I can't think of any.
It's like I
So-
feel like I know I've seen it, maybe not in anything we've covered, but nothing like, you know, right
Like
now
this.
flagging my brain.
I'd be surprised if this was the first, but I could see it going either way, I guess.
But also, usually I feel like it's like, he sent me a message on Bookface. Like, they usually shows shy away from even using the proper name.
And I don't want to just dissect the
My
shit out
place.
of like the technicalities of this, but there's one more thing about this TikTok that like drove me nuts before I even talk about, because I haven't even said what happens in it yet.
Now, quick question,
But-
Jay, before you say that. Do you watch a lot of TikToks?
No.
Relative to
No.
other people, I mean, I see plenty because TikTok proper I don't use, but
That was my
you've got
question.
Instagram and Facebook Reels, like they're just TikToks that are being.
Right,
then
but the interface
used
is
on-
different, right? Because I don't have TikTok. I've never downloaded TikTok, but I've seen, you see Reels, that's a similar thing.
It's very
but-
similar to looking at like an Instagram Reel, yeah.
Right, but is that like
Yeah.
interface different? Does it look different?
Yeah, a little bit, but of course, like any other app, it's if you use two different web browsers, they look a little different, but they're similar, you know.
Sure, but if you don't use that much, does it track you that differently?
What do you mean?
Like you were saying that it looks different and it bothers you because it doesn't look the same as
It was
what a
super
TikTok
generic
looks like.
looking. That's why. It was just I just didn't understand why you wouldn't use something that was. If you could say the word TikTok, I assumed you had free reign to just use it like you already went through approval. But maybe I'm wrong. So to get into the actual TikTok itself, we see George and his daughter Mayan next to each other. And it's one of those, as a lot of these videos go, they're not speaking. You have the text to speech going on with the word bubbles, and she's pointing at him, and she's basically telling you about all his shortcomings. And it's all about, he was a bad dad, he wasn't there for them, all this stuff. It's very realistic to modern day. You see this stuff where people are overly personal on what should just be like a dumb social media platform.
It's basically like all of those my cringe Instagrams, actually, in like real life, yeah.
And I do like that it went from that, and like she talks about how she deals with all her father issues, and then it's just her twerking, because it's like
no, it's better than that. She says, I figured it out. I went to therapy, and the next shot is her upside down twerking, where she's just having sex with the wall. Is twerking upside down still twerking? Is it a different dance?
It was a thing for a while. I mean, I
No,
don't know
that
if
was
it
a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's all those videos of people opening the doors on them and them falling
Yeah,
into
yeah,
like
yeah,
glass
yeah.
tables and stuff.
Oh.
There was this super viral one that turned out to be fake that Jimmy Kimmel had staged, and it got like millions and millions of views, and then he revealed it like months later that was a setup.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There was an extended video where he walks in a frame after like the fire happens. The girl falls on like a candle.
I remember that one.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, I thought that was funny in that it shows kind of modern times in a very unflattering light, but that is the world we live in.
I do like that it shows like the uncomfortable, like I'm sharing too much, and then like, but now I'm gonna be sexy. Like it is very much like what you see when people post these videos.
It's just weird too when you say, I got daddy issues, and then you're twerking and you're doing a video with your dad.
In a video that he
I
was
just
in,
like,
yeah.
Come
Well,
on.
ironically, George says something about that.
Yeah, there were some scenes in this episode where you're like, George, don't say that about your daughter, please. That's weird, man. I love you, but that's a weird comment.
I want to get back to, we talked about this before we got into the episode. Joe, we've gone over this many a time. You hate super modern reference. You think it dates things. This is as easy to date your own episode using the social media thing as you can get. To the point where I didn't even like it that much, and it doesn't bother me. And this stuff usually destroys you. It didn't bother you too much?
Because I found a way through it where like I hated this, right? Like bachelor jokes, Tinder jokes, like twerking, all this stuff, right? Like I don't appreciate that, but I feel like the reason this show is actually funny is because George doesn't get it either, and he's the analog for a person who doesn't understand what's happening and is trying to navigate in the world. And for me personally, I find that very, like, I very much related to that, right? Where it's like, this stuff all happens around me. I have a cursory awareness of it, but I know nothing really of it. And sometimes I'm asking you guys, like, wait, what the fuck is that? And that's what George's character is. And then you have to bend occasionally to get in. Like, you're like, hey, make a video or do this. Or, you know, you just to, like, understand what's happening in the world. Where I work in technology. Occasionally you have to sort of dip your toe in and figure out what's going on. But that's what I felt like. I felt like I very much related to George for that part of his character.
Oh, you mean when you made a wonderful video for our 50,000 fans?
Hey, I was making a wonderful video, and then Jay posted that, and I figured, well, if it's done for me already, why should I do it now? If AI took care of it, if J.I. took care of it, why would I take the time to do it again?
J.I. took care of it days later. It was time to post. It's like, hey, Joe, I'm going to post yours in 4 minutes. You're like, all right, I'm just going to make a ham sandwich, and I'll get to it.
Sorry, I had to run to the store and buy some more mustard.
Restring my ukulele. My scooter
First
died.
of all, do not play ukulele. Second of all, mustard is a universal food, as are ham sandwiches.
So, anyways, as we see the George walking in on his daughter twerking, which again, it's like, knowing that it's his real daughter, and like that's like he has to walk in on that. Like,
Yeah,
I
you
feel
added
so
a whole new
uncomfortable.
level to the weirdness now. I didn't know that watching the show.
Yeah,
Now I
me
think it's
too.
even
She's
weirder.
legit upside down, shaking her ass when he walks into the room. Like that's just like such a. I can't get my head around it, knowing now that you know they're father-daughter in real life. And then she's saying how she's connecting to other women who have daddy issues, and he's like, "Oh, I'm sure you'll connect with some daddies on there too." And it's like,
Those are the lines, though, that makes this show really funny to me. It's those little follow-up Lopez lines.
you know, she's saying, "Why should I
Agreed.
take any social media advice from you? You know, you thought Instagram was a weed delivery service." He's like, "Sometimes it is." And
See,
he's
that,
like, "I
again,
like dancing." And then we
you
get
just
the
keep popping
callback.
those lines out, though.
And we get the callback to the, you know, the original show, because now they start playing Lowrider, and you just see him dancing as if he's making his own TikTok real quick, and it's just him dancing to Lowrider, which I thought was like a nice little callback to the old show. Like, I didn't love that they did it twice in the episode, but the first time I thought was fine.
Imagine
It didn't need to
dropping
be
that
twice.
much money to get the rights to Lowrider for one little segment of your new show, like on the first episode, and then never again. You still have to buy the rights to use that.
Everybody in the Band of War is like swimming in their like Scrooge McDuck pool full of gold doubloons, being like, "Keep using it, keep using it." I will say, not to be the jump ahead guy, but as the one person who's seen this whole show, they do this a lot throughout the series. They reference George Lopez a lot, to a point where they have a holiday episode where the entire cast
I watched
of George
that clip,
Lopez comes in.
and I want you to remind me because I want to talk about that at the end of the episode because I did watch that one clip. But
it was a fun thing watching it like new, being like, "Hey, look,
it's Carmen."
after this whole social media thing, the two of them are talking, and one thing we learn, and this is kind of the thing driving this whole episode, is George is helping fix his daughter's kitchen. He's like renovating the whole kitchen. In this moment, he's telling her, all this driving back and forth is like what's taking so long. He has like a 2-hour commute every day. And he's asking, hey, is it cool if I stay with you? I'll get this whole thing done a lot quicker that way. She has a lot of hesitation. She's like, we've only been cool with each other for like the last 6 weeks. As we know from the TikTok, they didn't have a great relationship. He wasn't like father of the year. But he's like, yeah, but like things have been good, right? And she's like, yeah, but this is like kind of a big thing. And that she's going to have to ask her husband, Quentin.
Boyfriend.
Oh, is it just boyfriend?
Just boyfriend, yeah."
Okay.
Thought it was partner.
Yeah, she says partner, which is a more modern term, but like they're not married.
So it's all encompassing.
okay.
So, I'm assuming you know that from later episodes then.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and she's telling him also we're going to have to set some boundaries because she doesn't want him to trigger her.
Do they establish where they are in this episode?
I don't think so.
I don't
They
recall.
don't, but I think we're to assume Southern California.
Yeah, that's what I assumed, but I don't know. I didn't know.
Now, Ferg, what you sigh about, I think, still aids to Joe's comments earlier. Her and Quentin are playing ultra modern, very, very liberal.
Woke?
Yeah, woke, I think, is the word-ish.
Yeah, ish. I feel weird now. Woke has become something different than what
Woke
it was.
has become something different. Woke is like a siren call now. It doesn't mean
now it has too much of a negative connotation where it's like now there needs to be a new
That's
level.
what they're
like in between.
going for with her saying it
But
so
not
many
as
times
extreme.
in a
She's
row,
not-
in a row, in a row.
Well, there's little things here in a way that we get throughout the episode, but I don't feel like it's super, super extreme with them. Like they're not like protesters and things
Oh,
like
I
that.
think it's super extreme, but on purpose.
Well, to a degree. And I think that he is the antithesis to it, so he is
that's
the
what
one
I
who's
mean.
countering.
They're having them be like that
Yeah.
so he can react.
Yes,
If I can-
exactly.
If I can make a point why I like this so much, because what I think they're going for, and I would be surprised if they said otherwise, is their relationship feels very much like a very modern Archie, Meathead, and
I thought the
Gloria.
same thing. There's definitely that element to it. I think they could have done a little bit better of a job balancing it so it's not whenever they're clashing with these things, and maybe it's just our perspective. George always looks like he's kind of in the right. They look like the ones being silly at times. And I think they should have maybe, with these arguments, kind of came in the middle a little bit more.
I
But
kind of got a muted Last Man Standing.
I can see that too,
recent
yeah.
Tim Allen one, like that show went like more to the extreme on the political spectrum, but like it kind of feels like a more muted that.
Sure, and I would say, and we'll definitely cover that show at some point.
And to jump on Gorda's point there too, the way this show is about TikToks, that show is about video blogs.
Yes, and
So it's similar analog.
and that's and obviously like for those of you know like Tim Allen outside of his acting, he definitely used that show as a vehicle to kind of play almost like a fictionalized Tim Allen there a little bit, where he could kind of speak his mind on a lot of issues through sitcom.
Which, to be fair, there is a cast member in this episode who is in Tim Allen's greatest Christmas movie,
Santa
Christmas
Claus?
with the Cranks.
Santa Claus?
No.
Stop that. It's not
Nick
straight.
Nick is with me on this one, right?
Yeah.
You can enjoy that movie, but still acknowledge that the Santa Claus.
Christmas
is
with the
like-
Cranks. I will fight to the death that Christmas with the Cranks is better than the Santa Claus.
I'm not willing to make this argument. don't think it
looks like
needs
you
to be
lost your
made.
only ally. Go jump off a cliff.
I just don't think it needs to be made. I think they can be equally entertaining.
Is there any scene in the Santa Claus where Santa just got Botox and he's trying to eat fruit slices and they keep falling out of his mouth hilariously that I've laughed at every year when I watch it since that movie came out? I don't think so.
It is funny, yes. I'm not denying that. I don't know. The Santa Claus holds I think, especially in our age group, it holds a big spot in our hearts, and it's tough to compete with regardless.
I do enjoy the Santa Claus, and I watched all of the Santa Clauses last year too, the new show, but I'm a Cranks guy.
Not to be in too much of a tangent when it comes to Tim Allen Christmas movies on a episode we were covering the George Lopez Show. You said that it's Tim Allen's best Christmas movie, where I would say that the Santa Claus isn't just Tim Allen's best Christmas movie, but it's one of the best Christmas movies, period.
I mean, I wouldn't go that
You
far.
said one of. I'm okay. I thought
I'm not going to say
if
the
you
best, but
said
it's
the
up there.
best, we would have
That's
had a
up
problem.
there.
There's also a really great Tim Allen Christmas movie called, like, Last Shootout at the El Macambo, something like that, which was a Netflix movie a couple years ago. That is pretty wild to watch. It's him and Kurtwood Smith, and it's a very interesting Christmas movie that's worth checking out.
I don't even think John Netflix watched that.
Greg Netflix, thank you, and he did, and I did too. I wrote him a letter and said, "Well done, thank you for Tim Allen and Kurtwood Smith."
It's funny that just 1 week after Halloween stuff, we go right into Christmas talk.
Yeah. That's how
There's
the
not a
world-
lot of
like real
Thanksgiving
life.
movies. There's literally just Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. That's the only Thanksgiving movie. Perfect, but the only one.
What about the horror one? Thanksgiving.
Oh, that's actually finally came out this year, or is coming
Thanksgiving?
out.
It's Thanksgiving, Thankskilling, the one with the turkey.
turkey. Yeah.
Thanks
said
Drilling,
good
where they all work
movies,
in a
though.
construction site.
Thanks Spilling, where they're all working at a bar.
Thanks. Moving on, where we continue this podcast.
So, anyways, while the two are going back and forth, there's this talk about the Lopez way, where she's saying like you yell too much, and he's kind of like, well, that's how things are done, and he gives like the example about how his nanny used to say that there's the right way and then there's the Lopez way, and how and then she'd throw her what
Chancla. It's
Chanclata.
just your sandal.
Okay, all right, it's sandal.
Yeah.
Before I butcher that.
It's either La Chancla or Chancla. It's something like that. I'm not
Thought
going
it
to
was
pretend like I know.
Chanclata.
Now I only know what that means because the wrestler, what's her name?
La
She's
Chanclata.
married to Aleister Black. Or more,
Zelina Vega.
Zelina Vega comes out with a sandal now and hits people with it.
Oh, okay. I didn't know where that was going at all.
And the whitest man in the world, Michael Cole, says that word every week on television.
So, but that's how he likes to resolve conflicts. And she's saying that there's other ways, and that, her therapist says instead of yelling, you should resolve through empathetic listening and mutual understanding. And he goes, what? I wasn't listening.
Just like, so when you say that line, it doesn't sound funny.
No,
like when you're trying
of
to
course
explain
not.
it to somebody, it doesn't sound funny. But the way he delivers it, it's funny. And I you know what I mean, but like I feel like with him, it's like really.
He has a delivery.
I don't know. He just stands out. Like, I can't think of somebody else who's exactly like that. Is I guess the point.
I'm with you. He's very unique. And I will say, too, we've known George Lopez pretty much our whole lives, right? Like, he's been very popular since the early 90s, right?
He used
like,
to
we were,
babysit Ferg. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Very
we used to
nice
go over
guy.
watch wrestling at Ferg's house. Like, George!
He played
But he
like
also
Quinceañera.
looks different now and looks... I don't want to say he looks funny, but, like, he's got crazy tall hair like Kramer all of a sudden.
He's a
So,
little
like, all of a
puffier.
sudden, George
Yeah.
Lopez is playing a totally different character. He looks totally different.
So I was thinking, though, if you dyed his hair black and like put it down, he wouldn't look any different.
the facial hair changes. a
Yeah,
little bit.
he
You look
The
at
facial hair
he's
changes,
aged
yeah.
pretty well. Yeah.
With his hair up like that in gray, though, he just looks like an older pop punk kid now. Like a pop punk kid from, like, 1997.
He
Is
did
just,
have like the
still going
cholo
for
button
it.
going too on the shirt.
Yeah.
I wore my closest shirt today to sort of go with it. It's like my stiffest denim shirt.
So you don't have a flannel?
I don't have any flannel, actually. I sweat too much, so I have a lot of thinner plaids, because if I wear flannel, I basically lose my body weight and sweat in like 2 hours.
I thought you get a closet full of them with the house. That wasn't part of the deal?
I throw them away. It's like the Santa Claus. It's like when he shaves and it grows back, I throw them out in the backyard and they just pop back in the next morning.
So at this point of the episode, that's when we meet Quentin and Chance, which are her boyfriend and their son. And right away, he's like, Grandpa, he's like, hey, what's up, Gordo? And It's not his name.
Not
He's like,
much.
My name's Chance, not Gordo. He's like, and I'm not fat. And our Gordo's not fat either. Thinnest one here. But he does say that he has gains.
What are you talking about? As we all puff up.
And
I didn't even know that he said Gordo.
really?
Yeah, I didn't-
I didn't hear it
either.
I didn't even watch the episode.
Well, he already told us he watched on his phone, which is strike one.
I watch it on my phone and I have bad hearing.
So,
So maybe
It's
why?
perfect for you to do analysis on a
method.
TV show podcast.
I like the colors in the picture.
I use this mode of watching that is not conducive to me, but I do it anyways, even though I could do it another way that would be better.
All of the people who like lamented the idea of like streaming is bad or home video even in the early 80s is bad because people will stop going to the movies and they won't see the magic of these things on the big screen. We're talking about Gordo watching like Titanic on a tiny phone
And he
on an
definitely
airplane.
did it like while he was just taking a long dump at work and was like, I guess I'll watch the episode.
You definitely disappeared from work for 21 and a half minutes and came back, took no notes.
He's making dinner and his phone is on the counter off to the side. And he's like listening to it through one ear. And
That's
and
not what
occasionally
happens.
looking down.
On
come
Monday
home-
while not making lasagna.
I make lasagna every Monday. You're just mad that
don't.
you do not
You
have.
don't. You do
If
not.
you made lasagna to prove us wrong, you would send a picture every Monday because that's
Yeah,
what you
I would-
are. And
because
the
the
fact that you
world-
don't.
You're just mad that your traditions are not world famous. You do
Yours
not have a
aren't
world
real.
Joe's world famous ham sandwich day.
I just
You don't have it.
realized there's definitely
I don't
an
eat ham
international
sandwiches
ham
every
sandwich.
day, every Monday. You eat a food every Monday. You
I do
brought this
because
up.
I have a world famous tradition, and
How
you
is it
don't.
world famous?
Yes, it is. How many people do we reach?
I mean, a good amount, but
Tens
I wouldn't
of
say
people.
that it's not like a thing. It's but I did come to realize something. That's why Gordo retains so little information about Top Gun. He watched it on his phone, and he couldn't hear anything going on. So that was the problem. That's why, despite him
Stop
very
it.
much
Do not give him the
actually
credit that
watching
he
Top Gun-
actually watched Top
Yeah.
Gun. Don't
I
even
did.
give him the half credit that it was on his
In
phone.
the theater. I watched it in the theater, which makes it that much worse.
You did not watch that in the
The
theater.
I
original
don't believe
one?
you.
Yes,
Did you
the
watch it when
original
you were
one.
like 2?
No, they replayed it in the Somerville theater.
We've had this discussion before. Gordo did go to the movies and see this apparently, but did not retain any of the info.
I forgot this ongoing joke was a thing, and it was a thing for so long, and it's completely left my brain. It's a Gordo Top Gun joke.
I mean, we say joke, but he definitely hasn't seen it. But to get back
I
into
have.
this episode, George tells his grandson that he's not calling him Chance, which is his actual name, because it looks like there's a chance that that's not your father. And I'm like,
And when
whoa.
they showed the dad, like I wasn't really paying attention to the dad at the time, but when they showed him, I was like, okay, yeah, I guess not.
so
Quentin is the other reason why this show works. He is so funny as the put upon guy.
Okay,
that
I don't
it
like him.
really...
So maybe
can't
he gets
stand
better.
him.
I
think
didn't
he
like him
hurts
at
the
all.
show.
I thought
Me
he played
too.
a little too goofy in the role.
Yeah.
You say
Yeah.
that, and then he slides out of the bed so physically in one scene that I laughed so hard at.
I know
where
exactly
I was
what
like,
you're talking about.
"Goddamn,
That was good. Yeah, yeah.
this dude's committing, and it's fucking hilarious."
And I will say, aesthetically, when you look at them, Chance looks very Mexican, as is his mother, and his father is very, very white. So that was George's argument, like, my grandson looks super Mexican and you don't, so there's a good chance that that's not yours.
I was just gonna say, because of who he is, he's George Lopez. He's a little arrogant and stuff. I'm surprised he wasn't like. I'm surprised he'd think that and not think, oh, the Lopez genes are just so strong. That's why you look. He'd rather just insult the white guy because his kid doesn't look like him.
And then I go back to what we were saying, too, about just kind of the differences between George and then his daughter and her partner. And he's saying, like, in regards to the stuff George is saying to him, look, George, even though I'm not the toxic alpha male you wanted for Mayan's life partner, I'm confident in who I am, so you can't hurt me.
I'm not mad at the show. I'm mad at reality.
I like that George called him. I was like, you broke eye contact at the end of there. He's like, damn it.
I do like, though, there's like some fun little things that seem very like East LA, like Chicano prison things, where it's like you broke eye contact there, or like when him and Mayan take the picture and they get down and do like the prison photo thing where like I feel like there's part of George's backstory we don't have all of, that he's maybe kind of tougher, and that's why Quentin's like even more afraid of him.
I had something there.
For once, I thought Gordo was going to speak, and everyone was actually quiet for him for a change, and he went...
He was actually watching next week's episode on his phone right now, so don't bother him.
No, what I was going to say was... Thank you. You all sparked that now. What I was going to say was that it was a very clever way to put down that type of, I guess, mentality or whatever without being too mean. If that makes sense. Like, it was a fun, playful way to, like, be dismissive of it.
Since when does he care about being too mean? He tells him that his kid isn't his.
I meant as a broader
Show.
For the show in general. That's what I meant.
And then George takes his grandson out into the kitchen. He wants some green juice, and George is joking with him that he's going to eat some boogers or something along those lines. But that was a way to
That's one of the few Lopez lines that does not fit in. Does not work in this one.
I also have a crazy aversion to boogers, and even talking about it just makes me want to gag. It's so bad.
I thought
Really?
it was funny.
I can't.
I don't
want to
get too into it.
We
And we're
can't
not-
have a discussion about boogers.
I didn't know this.
Booger.
But, like, you can watch videos where people shit themselves, and, like, that's humorous to you. But, like,
Okay,
a
first of all, I don't
booger,
watch videos where people shit themselves.
I'm going to claim false.
I'm going to go with Jay
I've
on this
definitely
one.
seen
You have
them,
sent
like,
us
but it's
numerous
not like-
times.
But yeah, no. But in short, yes, it doesn't gross me out as much as booger discussions do. Boogers are so
Those aren't
fucking
people shitting
gross.
themselves. Those are failed farts.
Yeah, it's not intentional.
You say tomato, I say tomato, friend.
Those videos crack me up, though, when they go to parties. See the pants fill up.
You're laughing at the idea of it, and I know Jay and I are in Congress here. We hate it so much.
So, but here's the thing, though. Not to get too much into this, by the way, but I don't feel like you guys are grossed out by that as much as you're annoyed by it. I'm very
It's both.
grossed out by booger
I
talk.
don't
For
like
me, it's
bathroom
both.
stuff too much, to be honest with you. Like,
Yeah.
so that's part of it.
I try to pretend that humans don't go to the bathroom.
I'm not. Boogers don't bug me. Spit
Boogers
does.
bother Nick and spit bothers Gordo.
Yeah.
You combine it, you
Spit
get
bothers
phlegm.
you?
Oh, you weren't there for that episode when he
Oh, yeah, you
ate
weren't there.
spit.
Yeah, I don't like it in porn when they spit at each other.
That's your fucking first go-to.
All right.
Clip that. That's my new text tone.
Moving along in the episode, there's Mayan lets him know that the plan is for her father to stay with them for a little bit. Obviously, there's a little bit of a version of that. And then we get to a scene later that night. They're all like in the kitchen again. Everyone's kind of hanging out, and then Mayan's mother, who's George's ex, walks into the room. She's going over what's she like? She does like insurance sales, right? And
Insurance sales,
she's
yeah.
bragging
Life
about some
insurance.
sales that she made, saying that she's going to be bigger than the Progressive Lady and the Affleck Duck.
It's not even the same kind of insurance.
Well, you can bundle.
They do
I
have
was
different.
talking
Yeah,
about Affleck. Affleck is for like if you get injured at work, they pay all your bills and shit. They give
I
you
think you can
spending
bundle
cash.
Affleck, though. I mean, I don't know. I have Geico, I think. I don't even know.
I have Progressive.
I have Geico as well. High five.
I recently had to do life insurance. You know, every once in a while, like my company changed providers, and I had to do a life insurance thing, and it was like your partner, your wife, and like you have to give information like date of birth and all this stuff, right? So no big deal. And I put it all through, and I don't know what people weigh. So apparently what I put in was like dangerously low weight. So they came back to me and they were like, I'm sorry, we can't insure life insurance for your wife. She is like unhealthy. And I was like, wait, what? And I called them. They're like, well, you said she weighs like X amount. I was like, I don't know what people weigh. Like, I don't know. I must have been wrong. I didn't want to ask her. That seemed like a weird thing to do. And they were like, okay, well, like, she has to go fucking weigh herself. Then you have to tell us. And then if you die, she can have your money. And I was like, okay, fuck, sorry. I'll go back and do that. So that was my recent life insurance scenario.
we can't just sign off all of your estate to your 40-pound wife, Joe.
They did like 100? Because I was like, I think that makes sense, right? And they were like, no, like 9-year-olds. I don't know. I was like, I don't fucking know.
That
I just
weight
know
you
what
put
I
down
hate
was
myself
100?
for weighing. I don't know what anybody else weighs.
What weight did you put down?
I can look it up. I don't remember. I think I did like 100 something. Like, I thought that's. I don't know. I don't fucking know, man.
Joe put 69 and went, "Ugh."
It actually said 69 parenthetical. Like, sorry, bud. Flo came to my house and yelled at me.
We get a nice little boner joke here where they're going back and forth because after the whole insurance thing, you get that part where George is making fun of her and saying that she's already got the voice to be like the Affleck duck. And she's like, well, do you want me to start telling them the text that you send me at night saying you up? And he goes, I was up. And he's like holding like, I don't know, it was a granola bar or something like that. But he like kind of gives you that phallic.
I love Dirty George Lopez. I laughed very hard at this joke.
Yeah, dirty drunk George is fucking hilarious.
High, drunk, sexualized George Lopez is my favorite George Lopez.
Interesting close to that scene to just kind of end on the, yeah, I still try to fuck my ex.
I would have liked a little more friction in their relationship. They seem to get along a little too much. I don't know how much time's passed since their separation.
I think quite a bit. I'm kind of under the impression that he probably was not around for a lot of her youth. That's why we're seeing Mayan as
I
an
think she
adult
says at
now.
one point, you weren't there for my teenage years, which she's yelling at the end. And if I'm going to, I didn't look up her age, but I guess she's probably like 30-ish.
And the next scene, we're at Mayan's job. She works as a vet tech at Animal Hospital. And this is the second TikTok we're getting. She's doing like a little TikTok about all the dogs. And she's like interviewing them with like a tiny microphone.
I love this.
I hate this.
I
hate this again. In
I
real
hated
life,
this too. I did
I'm
not
saying,
enjoy
you're
this
at
part.
work. Do your fucking job.
No,
Stop
that's
TikToking.
fine. I mean, that's not what
No.
bothered me. I just didn't like going back to this TikTok thing twice in such a short amount of time. Because now my fear was, is this whole show going to be TikToks like nonstop?
I would be mad though if I took my cat to the vet and then they post a bunch of fucking videos where it was like, hey, I'm fucking hungry. I smell like pooping flowers now. I'd be like, no, do not put my fucking cat in this.
I will subscribe to your TikTok.
I'm sorry, that kid's in my head. I don't mean to tangent, but have you guys
With the
seen the
butthole?
Poof commercial? Have we talked about this?
The butt what?
There's a new product called Poof. And it's like a pitchman thing. And it's a guy and he sprays this stuff on anything and the smell goes away. Right? And he at one point he sprays it in his mouth and the crowd goes like, oh my God. And they cut to one scene where it's just like traditional sprays don't actually change the smell. They just cover it up. And the particles coming off of the smell just go, I smell like poop and flowers now. And then it cuts back to the guy. And I don't like poop jokes. And every time it's on, I fucking double over with laughter. And I think about it all the time. Now the universe can hear us and you'll find those commercials.
So after that TikTok situation, we got her walking out to that main entrance area. And that's when we see her coworker, Brookie. And Brookie's sitting at the desk and she's just kind of swiping on a dating app. And she's kind of going
This I don't enjoy.
I don't know why multiple TikToks don't bother you as much as someone being on a dating app.
I mean, I've never used either of them, but I did have a question here because I've never used a dating app. I think everyone here has at some point aside from me, right? Have any of you ever had pictures where you were either sitting or sitting in a car?
Actually, I have a
No.
picture of me with a giant fish.
See?
That's a common
Does that
trope.
mean you're short and fishy?
No, there's a lot of guys are known to have holding up fish pictures.
Yeah.
Oh, is that a thing?
Yes.
One thing ladies love is a fish.
That seems weird, yeah.
I can pull up mine right now and see if I have anything of me sitting down. I don't
Check
think
your
so.
farmers only and tell me what the profile pic says.
Well, I'm sitting on my tractor.
That doesn't count.
Okay,
Well, it depends on what kind of tractor.
so
John
That's just
Deere,
the
this is
brand
America.
of Jay's dildo we were talking about earlier. It's called the Tractor.
standing.
He's been sitting on the tractor this whole episode.
He takes it out and becomes the detractor.
Standing in all pictures is one where I'm sitting, but it's only like torso up. So that's the only sitting down picture.
So you're short.
I'm standing in all my other ones.
Well, it doesn't matter if you've got a sitting picture. Yeah, are you next to a tall person or a landmark that will show your height?
No, I'm actually standing next to Gordo in basketball attire, so people assume that he's 6 feet tall. They go, "Wow, this guy must be like 7'5".
in vertical stripes with your hair spiked up, like when Bart Simpson wants to be Radioactive Man.
But yeah, she's going over all these different things that essentially they all mean that guys are short, and she just keeps swiping left on them. And the only
As a
time
group of not tall people in this group,
Yeah.
fuck that lady.
She says that she swipes right for rich guys and then refers them to her OnlyFans. And says, what? It's just my feet. I'm not a freak. Very, again, like, even OnlyFans. Listen, I think this type of world where women are selling content to sex workers, I think that's going to last a long, long time. But I think to go into the OnlyFans specific, using that
You don't
by
name the company because the company could get taken over. This is like saying like MySpace 20 years ago. Now it seems dated. I'm totally.
And I think the same
here.
with TikTok. I think like there's going to be like social media apps and things, and people are going to make goofy videos. But like, will TikTok be a thing in 5 years? Who knows?
Or some weird evil fucking Bond villain billionaire will buy one of them and just change the name of it to an X.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's kind of like if they use Facebook. Facebook is still a thing, but it would make it very timely because Facebook is no longer popular at all.
No, Facebook is very popular, just in an age grade above us, I think.
Yeah. Different demographic is popular with.
Now it's just for like older people to sell their snowblowers.
Right, basically that, and for like family announcements and stuff, you know, like
Yeah.
I don't have Facebook, my wife does, and like every February she like will log in because she doesn't use it, she just has it, and we'll like see my parents around the holidays, be like, oh, did you hear from X, Y, and Z? And be like, no, and then we just look in, it's just like so many odds being like, love you guys, Merry Christmas. And you're like, sorry, I don't
I'm
know
the
how to
same
handle
way.
this.
I have it, but I never actually use it for the most part. I'll check
I
it
use Messenger more.
a few times a month, maybe. And yeah, sometimes I'll log in and I'll just have an exceptional amount of notifications, all of which are totally useless because it just notifies you anytime something moves.
physically-
but-
Anybody
Post-
does anything.
I don't post as much as I used to. I used to post a lot on Facebook, but I'm in a lot of groups that are like for like kind of niche things, like whether it be bands or other interests I have, and it's like really good for things like that. So that's kind of mainly what I use it for now.
I will say if I was ever to use it, it's because there's a lot of classic wrestling groups on there, whereas people who like, actually want to talk about wrestling I don't hate, but I'll never download Facebook. I just can't do it.
To move on back here, we're at this animal hospital, and Mayan and Brookie are talking about how Duchess Chihuahua's coming in, and they're not very fond of her owner, and talking about how like rich people think everything's supposed to be free. Basically, this girl's been trying to get out of paying for stuff all the time whenever she brings her dog in. At that point, that's when Duchess and the owner walk in. And then I was pleasantly surprised to see that the owner of Duchess is,
Caroline Ray.
Caroline Ray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Former...
I guess best known from Sabrina, right? I know she's done a bunch of stuff,
100%.
but
Yes.
Yeah,
it's gotta be
100%.
Sabrina,
She's done a bunch
right?
of stuff, but that's her thing. Yeah.
I mean, I go Meatballs 3, but you guys consider whatever you want.
Meatballs 3?
I got two meatballs here for you.
Wait, Ferg, have you ever seen Meatballs 3?
I didn't know there was a 3. I thought there was only 1 and 2.
Meatballs? Okay, quick side note here. Meatballs 3 is a movie everybody should watch because they completely
I
break
plan
from
on
the
it.
formula of Meatballs. And it's one of the kids from the first movie. There's no Bill Murray or anything anymore. This kid is now like 17. He gets a job working at a place on the pier. And then somehow a porn star is killed and not allowed into heaven. So she has to come back to Earth and mentor the kid from Meatballs
Is it
to
not
get
on a
him.
summer camp anymore?
No, because he's too old. He's working, but he wants to have sex. And the sex worker is told by God if she can mentor the kid to get laid over the summer, she can also go to heaven. It's fucking bananas.
That
It is a
sounds
weird,
interesting.
weird teen kid movie.
Does the alien from part 2 come back?
The alien does not come back, but it'd be great if the kid had sex with the alien from part 2. Because part 2 Meatballs is somehow weirder than part 3 Meatballs.
So I thought Caroline Ray actually did a really good job in her. I don't know if she's a recurring character or not, but at least in this episode, she was pretty.
Is
good.
she, Joe? Just out of curiosity.
She recurs, yeah.
Okay. So she comes in. She's very much the. How do you describe her? She has her little dog that
Yuppie.
she carries in the bag, and she's going to Pilates class, and
Yuppie.
Yeah, I would say
Modern
yuppie
day
work.
yuppie.
She's
Like
like
a
a modern
suburban-
yuppie, yeah, suburban mom yuppie.
Yeah. Soccer mom-ish.
yeah, doesn't allow her dog to touch the floor. which
I agree.
That was funny.
ever you don't let your dog ever touch the ground.
It's
I don't
dirty.
think her character makes much sense, the whole not wanting to pay thing, because she's spending all weird money to go to all this other stuff. So she's
Well, that's
clearly
the
like a rich
issue. It's
woman.
like the-
why
it's-
does
that's
she
how
not
It's
people
rich
want
people
are.
never pay their regular bills. It's a weird thing.
Yeah,
I didn't know that was a trope.
it's like an
It is.
entitlement.
It's a very strange thing, but like, yeah, they won't pay their like. They'll fight you over like $40 for lunch, but they'll go and spend $2,000 to sit in like a fucking deprivation tank. It's a weird thing.
Yeah,
I gotta know
people
these
like
things
that.
for when I get rich.
Yeah,
When Ferg gets a deprivation tank delivered to his house, we know this podcast is fucking over.
and we see her trying to duck the bill because she's she's showing up, she's dropping off the dog, and Mayan's like, oh, and you haven't paid the last 3 times. You need to like square your way if you can give him a card. And she's like, oh no, I'm late for Pilates, and she's like running out. And before she does though, there's that like, she's trying to like kiss the dog. It doesn't get too. I thought she was gonna really go for it, but I think
Her
she just
tongue
kinda-
comes out though. She
She
does.
stuck
Her
her
tongue
tongue
comes
out.
out.
Yeah, I think it
she
grossed
didn't
everybody
fully
out in
commit.
real life.
I think if she fully committed, it would have really hit. But
She should have went full something about Mary with the old lady with the dog.
Magda.
Yeah.
Or go full dirty work with Norm Macdonald. I think he's fucking that dog.
I think he just stuck his thumb up that dog's ass. All right, people.
Absolutely.
and from there we cut to Mayan's house again, and we see George and like 4 of his buddies that are all working on the kitchen together, and they're more just kind of hanging out and having beers than they are actually physically doing anything in the kitchen. Which gets disrupted when she comes in and slams the door. What's his his good friend's name again?
Oscar.
Oscar.
Yeah.
Because right before she comes in, they were talking about how Oscar and George earlier that day just got super high. And then when she came in, Oscar's like, hey, quiet, some of us are high.
I like that. That made me laugh.
He's like a high point of the show, especially going forward. But I even think in this episode, he's a very high point of the high point. But he's I think he's super funny.
And we get that callback to the whole Lopez way thing because Mayan's venting to her father about this woman at work and how entitled she was. And he's saying, you got to stand up. You have to like go the Lopez way and like put her in her place. They're talking about how entitled she is. It's like, oh, but it's just one lady, right? It's like, well, one's all you need to get a flight grounded at Delta. And it's, I don't know, maybe it was the airline employee in me that really found that funny because I do know
It tickled you specifically,
how
I'm sure.
commonplace things like that really can be, especially now. I think that stuff's more seen in the social media world now with all these like angry customers that literally do get planes grounded and returned to gate, and it's insane.
COVID, I think.
If you
is
guys
what
haven't,
started
if
that.
you guys don't follow the Instagram that's called Passenger Shaming, it's one of the most amazing things you'll ever see, and it makes you just hate humanity. It's basically just a bunch of entitled white women on planes being like, no, I won't, until cops come on and drag them off while they scream away. It's fucking bananas.
I saw one where someone pooped themselves, and they went all the way down the aisle.
See, fuck you for doing that. First of all, fuck you anybody who makes a plane ride somehow even worse. The only person who can make a plane ride worse than that is like Osama bin Laden. Like, you can't fucking make being on a plane
I know.
so miserable. It's
Yeah,
you're in a
get
tube
taken
with
out.
people, you're just trying to deal with it, and it's a nightmare. So don't shit yourself or fucking make them land 400 fucking miles closer to where you landed than you're supposed to, so that the cops can come on. And then what are you gonna do? And then you're waiting in an airport, which is a nightmare. I know, Jay, I know you work in an airport, but no one likes waiting around an airport.
No, I mean,
Before I
no one
get
likes
my
being
flips.
stuck anywhere. No one wants to be anywhere longer than they're supposed to be. So,
Except in the dryer.
not there. Didn't work.
But
So as she keeps talking to her father, she's like, hey, isn't the refrigerator supposed to be here today? He's like, oh, don't worry about that. Yeah, something happened. And then he tries to change the subject. He goes, you know what'll make you feel better? And we get a cut to like her with like the hammer, like just demoing the wall and screaming, kind of making a rage room out of her own.
I feel like the entire universe would feel a lot better if every Friday they could just go to like a drywall and smash it up. Like, it really does make you feel better. It lets a lot of like rage and weirdness out that's not,
I've
violent
always
towards
thought
other
it would be.
people.
I've never gone, but those rage room things look like a lot of fun. I don't know how much they charge assume
I feel like
too
it's got to
much.
be expensive.
Yeah.
It's
Just
like
pull a Shockmaster and fall through.
They're not very expensive.
They're
Actually,
not
I have a gift
expensive.
certificate to one that I keep meaning to fulfill, and they're like it was like $35 a person or something. It wasn't like
That's
crazy.
not bad.
yeah, no, it's not.
I've
mean, it looks
always
like
wanted to
fun.
put a sledgehammer through a CRT TV. Like if I wanted
can't
to do
do
this as a
those.
little kid.
I did what the best thing I was reading because I did some research on them. You can bring useless shit with you or donate it to the rage room place that like you don't want anymore.
So we shouldn't all go together because then people will start hitting us.
What, are we useless shit?
Yes, that was the joke.
And the
Oh.
shit.
Thank you, Danny DeVito, for popping into the podcast.
Great Danny DeVito, Jay. How's your Bobcat Goldthwait coming?
No, don't play the greatest hits. This episode's going to be too long.
I also wouldn't call those greatest.
I'm the greatest. Dun, 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 dun.
After that demo scene, we cut to later in the night, and we have Mayan and Quentin in their room together. And they're going over like the recap of their night and how they both put not only Chance but George to bed. And you get the joke about how Quentin like was helping George get his pants off for bed, I assume because he's drunk or something like that. Meanwhile, we cut to George walking down the hallway as the two of them are in their room together. And he's just shutting all of the lights off, which is like, I don't know, my mom's like that. Same
I'm this way.
My dad was very much like that.
My
yeah.
mom hates a light on, even if it's dark. And I'm like, I have this light on for a reason. She's like, you don't need it. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I will put. I can't see my eye. Whatever's wrong with my eyesight, there's a lot, but I can't see if it's dim. If it's dark, there's light on, I'm fine. If it's middle of the day, I'm fine. But at dusk, I will like.
also have a very hard time at dusk. Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad you do too. So because of that, I have lights on all the time. But my biggest issue is if there's nobody around and the light's on for nobody. Like I'll come out of my office and be like, why are there 3 lights on up here at 2 in the afternoon? And I'm immediately just like, fuck, doing it. So like, I totally do get George's stake.
I
will
don't give
say,
a shit. I leave
so-
lights on all the time.
I don't know if any of you have gotten onto this train, but I can control every single light bulb with the Google Assistant.
Oh,
So
you
like
got
I
the
can
smart
My
I
bulb.
can
wife
just say,
will
hey
not let
Google,
me.
shut off this room, turn off this room, dim this room, change it to this color, whatever. And at the
I'm
end of the
intrigued by
night, you
that.
can just be like, hey, shut everything off, and the entire house goes dark, and it's really fucking cool, actually.
My wife won't let me.
Why?
She doesn't want Google in our house like that.
I mean, I can see the argument for that. I don't care personally. I think
Yeah, I
the convenience
agree.
is worth
I've
whatever.
got one of those little Google Nest guys, like the little home things. that
Yeah,
comes
yeah,
out in
I
your
got one in
kitchen,
every
and,
room.
Like, yeah, I love talking to it and asking it questions versus
Yeah, it's great.
picking up my phone. So it's fun to have around.
I think those things, I don't mind having those little devices. As far as like the smart turn on the lamp stuff, I haven't been at a point where I find it that much more convenient. or,
Yes,
like, where I would
because
need
you
it.
haven't done it. It's
I-
just one of
yeah, I
those
think Nick's
things.
right
Once you do it, I haven't flipped a physical light switch in a really long time, and it's just like it's stupid, but it's like really.
But you know
cool.
what? Sometimes telling it to turn on the living room light is longer than it would take me to just go with my finger. real
Yeah, but I
quick,
mean,
and
I'm with
it-
you
you,
can also
Jay.
like Alexa, change desk lamp to green, and
I like
this will
that.
turn to
I like the colored, yeah.
yeah. Well, it should have done it, but it
I
didn't.
feel like it would be like,
Yeah.
Alexa, turn off the light. And then it would be like, you want to watch Ernest Scared Stupid? I'm like, no.
And you're like,
Turn the
fine.
lights
You're
off.
like, oh, if you insist, twist my arm, Alexa.
So anyways, as George is turning off all these lights, he's making his way over to their room. And when he does open the door, he discovers the two of them making out. And that's when we get that physical gag you were talking about before, where Quentin like leaps out of bed and falls to the ground.
He slides his whole body out, and it is fucking hilarious. That is a great bit of physical comedy.
And he's yelling at them about all these lights. He's like, do you have any idea what this electricity costs? And what was it? 19.90
Yeah,
cents a
19
kilowatt?
Kilowatts per hour.
yeah.
He says, I'm sorry, when I get nervous, I say facts.
I thought that was funny.
And she's saying, listen, we can afford lights. It's fine. Because she doesn't really care about the cost. Again, I'm the same way.
I feel like they would because they'd be all like climate change, we're wasting electricity and all that other stuff.
I
We
guess
live
if
in
you like kind of pair it with some of the
California.
early stuff, that would make sense.
That does make more sense to their character, Ferg. I think you're right.
I think it's also too they can afford it. So like I think that's
But I think it's one of those
Yeah.
things, knowing what we know about the end of the episode, it's nothing that like raised my eyebrows in the moment. But when you look back at it, at this time, he's saying, hey, listen, I know you have money now, but you don't know when you're going to need that down the road. You know, there's going to be a time where like you might need some of that extra money. And again, we'll get into that later, but in the moment hearing that, you don't think about it as just normal parent yelling at their kids, but it does come into play with the story here. So
Yeah.
I think that line is a lot more clever than you realize in the moment where it's placed.
Yeah, there's foreshadowing there that I didn't even realize until right now.
And he also goes into the story about how, because she's saying, hey, listen, we leave that so Chance, if he has to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, he can walk into the hallway and it's not going to bump into anything. And he starts talking about how when he was a kid, his grandma forced him to read in the dark. He would keep the light on and then she would turn it off. And because of it, he now can read in the dark and still does to this day. And when Quentin's like, is that true? And she's like, he can't even read in the light.
She screams it though. It really made me laugh.
And right around that point too is when, again, a callback to earlier in the same scene when George is arguing back with him and he realizes that he doesn't have pants on, which is, we find out from when Quentin helped get him to bed.
Yeah.
He's also wearing like the world's longest boxers.
I was gonna say the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like,
He
where
may
do
not
you...
have pants on, but he's got giant underwear.
Right, because usually if you're wearing like big underwear, if you put a pair of like 10XL underwear on, right, they'd be huge and flowy everywhere, but they like would fall off your waist too. Those are like tight and long. It's a very confusing pair of boxer shorts.
Those can't be comfortable either to wear. I haven't worn proper boxers in a long time.
Definitely
and
meant
they
to
were
be
never
like a
comfortable.
Does
costume.
anybody
type
really
look.
wear proper boxers anymore? I feel like
No.
you get older and you either go brief or boxer brief.
No, but I feel like, Ferg, you were on the boxer train for a lot longer than most people, weren't you? I feel
Silk
like we've had this
boxers.
discussion. You wore like silk boxers for a while.
Silk boxes till he decided nothing at all.
I just cut out the middleman and went with nothing at all. Nothing.
Are you
at
still
all,
nothing at all? Nothing at all.
No, I do boxer briefs now.
I did the nothing at all for a while too, and it's a
No.
losing game.
Never. I wear
That's
jeans
disgusting
all the
to
time.
me. I don't
I
care.
think most guys, whenever, whether it be Hanes or Fruit of the Loom, whoever first discovered let's just make conventional, briefs into the boxer shape, and the boxer brief creation, I think, revolutionized underwear. Although I'm near confident that Joe probably still wears something that's more conventional.
We're briefs.
Oh, Joe wears tighty whities.
Yeah, of course.
They're
Regular-
black.
He's got Rue McClanahan underoos on right now, right?
Actually, for a while, when I was doing a lot of stenciling and screen printing, I have to test stuff if I was making a stencil. And for my band at the time, the stencil was Roy Scheider from Jaws ripping off a woman's suit from the movie Naked Lunch. So to test it, I just used it on all of my underwear, and it was red spray paint. So for a while, if your pants fell down, it just looked like I had blood coming out of my ass. But if you straightened it up, it was Roy Scheider. So I had 12 pairs of Roy Scheider butt briefs. I wish I still had that stencil.
Butt briefs.
But I wear black briefs with white ribbing now. That's my go-to.
Ooh, ribbed for her pleasure.
I wear pants that are so tight, it's not I don't like wearing boxer briefs because you see the line. I can't have panty lines is basically what I'm saying right now.
Have you considered wearing more comfortable pants?
See, to me, pants that were less tight than what I wear would be uncomfortable. It's been too long.
You need a hug.
Get in the car. Let's go, Ferg.
Oh, when I walk, my legs are so much motion. I'm getting there.
No,
so
see,
many
that's
less
look.
times.
We've talked about this for a long time. Being comfortable makes me very uncomfortable.
That's something you need to tell your shrink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For real.
Look, I'm working through stuff. Okay, I'm on a solid year of therapy right now. We're working on bigger things than the fact that I won't even put on pajamas until I'm about to go to bed because I have so much fear that what if something happens and I have to leave? Then I'd be outside the house in pajamas. I couldn't
I don't want the
fucking handle that
firefighters
mentally.
to judge my pajamas.
Yes, if the house is burning down, I'd like the firefighter to be like, "Good jeans, pal," and then move on.
Just do me a favor. Can you just write a note to yourself? The being comfortable makes me uncomfortable thing, and just make sure you lead off with that next session.
I'm wearing pajamas now.
Yeah, I'm wearing my gray sweat. It's gray sweatpants season, boys.
It is great.
it's a whole season?
I don't know. I don't own sweatpants,
but I do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm in
see,
jeans
Jay,
right now.
I was just about to bring it up. Jay's
What?
like, I mean, I guess you'd be considered a comfort guy, but you're like a just don't wear anything like but boxers around the house kind of
No,
guy.
gym shorts.
Gym
I wear
shorts.
gym shorts
He
around the
always
house.
wears gym shorts and
In the
shorts
house,
all year
always gym
round.
shorts. Yeah.
I have house shorts. I will say that I have like athletic shorts, like little runner shorts that
Yeah.
I wear in the house.
Yeah, I
Little
have some-
runner
I have
shorts.
some cotton ones too.
I was like you boys, and then one day I embraced sweatpants.
Sweatpants
Changes
are
your
the
life.
When was that
Listen-
day? When you were a toddler?
No, I didn't wear
I wear
sweatpants all through
sweatpants.
high school.
I wear sweatpants right now.
I don't judge anybody like I used to for wearing them, but I still can never wear them.
I try to be a more open person. Listen, the majority of my shorts are just Walmart cargo shorts. So I'm not here to judge people. I will say every time I see Ferg wearing sweatpants shorts, it's just one of those things that I'm like,
Dude,
I
best
do it now to
invention
piss
ever.
you off. I don't really wear sweatpants shorts that often, but if I'm going on a trip, I make sure I pack a pair just so you see me in them.
Ferg, they are you guys want the ultimate comfort trouser right there.
Sweatpants shorts?
Yep. It's the comfort and warmth of sweatpants, but with the range of motion of shorts.
I also won't leave the house wearing shorts. I feel like that's a
Yeah,
cardinal
that's
sin.
weird.
I have to
That's
wear
weird,
pants when I
man.
leave the house.
Why is
won't
that
leave
weird?
the house wearing shorts
Nope.
in the summertime?
Nope.
You
Shorts
think
in the
that's
house only.
weird? You think
If I'm wearing, I have like a cut off pair of jean shorts I wear at home, right? Or if it's my like nighttime, my comfy shorts that are like my
Daisy
runner shorts.
Dukes.
I just put
If
those on
someone's
when
like,
I'm
"Hey,
washing
you have to
the
go to
car.
the post office down the street," I will put pants on.
You're a serial killer.
Possibly.
Yeah, that's really weird. Why?
I just don't mentally feel comfortable leaving the house in shorts.
No,
feel
no,
like
I
I'm
get
not
that, but like,
dressed.
what is uncomfortable? Like, do you have like this thing about like exposed knees? Like, what?
No. You can see my legs. I'll send you a picture of me naked right now. It's not that. It's just that I don't want to leave the house wearing shorts. It's very weird to me.
We'll dissect some of this offline.
How do you
I feel like I
still
should be taking notes
surprise
for
me?
my therapist needs some new stuff to talk about, I'm
Just
sure.
send this episode when it's edited.
Well, the funny thing is, usually I do bi-weekly. I'm crazy enough that I get to go twice a month. But it's always on Fridays. So sometimes we have these episodes we record, spoiler, back behind the curtain. We record on Thursdays most of the time. Sometimes I'll be like, I've got a post-it note of things we could talk about that I've discovered while we were recording that I can go on. Usually that was just like, I was able to go to a restaurant and not have a panic attack the other day, and I drank 2 big beers. And it's like, good for you, Joe. You're doing better. You're leaving the house again. Which I think she's like, we'll deal with the shorts thing later. We've got other fish to fry right now.
But that will kill you if you fry fish.
That's true. That's why I can't eat at most restaurants. But I did find out that if you go to the 99, they will give you free popcorn, and they will not cut you off on 24-ounce beers if they know you're not driving, which is fucking amazing.
Say the local 99, not the local.
How do you
the
prove that you're
99.
not driving?
Yeah, how do you prove that?
Well, usually I'm with my wife who isn't drinking. So I think they just assume that, like, the one who's not drinking and eating food is probably the responsible driver, and the one who's eating 4 bowls of popcorn and has had, like, 40 Millers probably is not going to be the one driving home. But then again, they could be gauging wrong.
I do like how that scene just kind of ends with like that whole thing with him realizing he had no pants on. Like any argument he was in that just shut him off completely, and he just quietly walked out of the room.
As you do when you realize you're not wearing pants.
Yeah. And after that, we flash to the next morning. You just see Mayan in the kitchen, and she's pouring some tequila into a mug. And that's when her boyfriend walks in, and she's like, "Don't judge me." He's like, "I'm not. I'm jealous." He's like, "Hit me." And then she, pours some for him. We've had this conversation. I am not a tequila guy, but hey, everyone's
No.
got their drinking choice. So
Me neither.
Especially gold tequila, though.
Yeah.
It's got to be silver.
Also, I'm a drinker. I'm a man who loves his drink. I can't. Drinking in the morning is not good.
not that early.
Maybe a nice
I agree.
mimosa.
It's just not my
I guess
thing.
that's different, right?
See, the idea of a mimosa is good, but then once you actually sit down at 9:30 and you've had a mimosa and you're like, okay, that was dumb. like,
Unless
I'm
you-
Now I
tired
have
now,
heartburn from this orange
Yeah.
juice.
Yeah, unless you have solid plans to take a nap at noon, then there's just no need for that because you're just gonna feel off the rest of the day.
Well, I
Yeah,
always
drinking that
considered
early
it
is a
hair of the
tough,
dog
long
thing.
day.
You drink a mimosa because you're hungover from partying harder the night before, and
I'm
Gets
also
rid of the hangover.
37 and haven't been hungover in I legit haven't been hungover in years.
Really?
I just
Because
don't
since
do
I
it.
hit 30, I could drink a single beer and I'll get hungover.
Oh, I don't
It's
drink.
like-
Yeah, I'm
like
with
that
Fergo
crazy
this
yet.
one. Some nights I could drink 5 beers and be like, I'm totally fine. And some nights I'll drink 5 beers and wake up and be like, oh, you never had water before, did you? Like my whole body is just turned to like a
Yeah, that's
mummy.
weird. I haven't been hungover in the longest time because I just don't get super drunk. I'll
It's
drink,
not
but-
a.
It's
I
not
drank
drunk,
too much
though.
Thing. It's
yeah,
any
'cause-
alcohol I have.
Yeah,
now,
it's really?
I get hungover.
Maybe it's
Yeah,
like,
like
I
if I don't
also-
have a base of water the whole day and then I drink and then don't drink water before bed, I'm basically sick the next day. For
You
like
guys
an hour
also
or
know
two.
I drink such an absurd amount of liquid in a day, so I'm so hydrated that probably helps. But anyways, this the conversation between the two of them in the kitchen turns into this montage because she's telling Quentin about how George has been running around turning lights off all the time, and you see all these different scenarios of him just kind of going around the house turning off lights. And there was the one where he turns off she's in the shower and he turns the light off and somehow that gets soap in her eyes. I don't know how to turn the lights off. She just started squirting soap right into her face as soon as that happened. But
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe like a loofah mishap.
I guess, but I mean,
The lights are off. Ah!
right.
I'm gonna turn the lights off. I mean, personally, look, this is a group of people who do not have historically the greatest eyesight in the world. I can't see more than an inch in front of me in the shower.
Yeah, you're
If
already
I turn the lights
showering
off,
with
I
no
would be
glasses.
at a disadvantage. I think you guys would be as well.
I've showered in the dark before because I forgot to turn the light on, and out of laziness, I just went with it.
I was gonna say I've been in a situation where we've had the power out and I would still shower.
Right. Yeah. I
Um,
definitely have showered during power outages and been like, well, fuck it.
But what I like about this whole montage of him shutting off the lights is then when they get to the living room to watch a movie and he turns the lights on because he can't see the
That's a
TV
fun little
that well
gag,
with
yeah.
the lights off. And I just realized
It's just
I
so
don't mind-
stubborn of him.
yeah, I don't need total darkness to watch a movie. I know some people it's a bit it's important to them for the room to be super dark for movie night. But just knowing to put yourself in her shoes and being so mad about the lights and then the one time it's applicable for the lights to all be off and he doesn't want them off at all, I did like that.
I thought you could read in the dark. Can't watch a movie.
What I like about that, though, is I usually turn a lot of lights off if we're watching a movie and we're trying to pay attention to a movie. We're watching a movie, we rented a movie, whatever. I think the key to that, though, is that it keeps you from looking at your fucking phone. And that's the key to it, right? If it's dark, you're paying attention, you're in the zone. Versus if you're just watching it with your lights on, you're gonna look at your phone just like you're watching The Office or
I
something.
mean, if I had a
You're
Nokia, then I couldn't see my phone. But nowadays, these phones light up pretty nice. So,
Yeah, but you're an asshole. People do it in the theater. That's why I barely
in a
ever
theater,
go to
that's
movie
different
theaters
yeah,
anymore.
because that light's flashing at everybody at that point. So, no, I wouldn't do it there. From that kind of movie thing, we kind of have a flash forward. So, I don't know if it's a different day or not. But now we have Mayan walking in. I thought the sequence was a little weird for her to be coming home from work right after what we saw, but regardless. She's coming in and she's kind of straightening up the living room a little bit, picking up some stuff that's out of place. And while she's doing that, you see George's hand slide in the door from the kitchen area and turn the light off.
But what
causes
does
her
she
to-
trip on?
Yeah, she just completely goes ass over as soon as that happens.
She takes a wrestling back bump.
Well, she was cleaning up
Yeah.
toys. It sounds like she probably tripped on a toy truck or something.
in a very cartoonish way, though, that you would step on the toy truck and just completely whoop. And,
Yeah.
fly
Like a
into the air.
skateboard, it takes you across the room, yeah.
And then he runs in the room. He's like, what happened? She's like, you shut the lights off on me, and now I think my ass is broken. He's like, no, you're like your mom. You got enough cushion back there to survive a fall from much higher. And I'm like,
Just
"Oh,
stop. That's your daughter.
You can't
That's
talk
the
about how
line that I was like, you can't say that to your daughter, bud. That's weird.
Yeah, it's like if you have I don't know, if your kid's young, you say, oh, you got a bubble butt. That's one thing. You can't tell your adult daughter that she has a big cushiony ass.
Now it's weirder because now I know it's his real daughter.
Yeah, that's even weirder.
I mean, they all wrote it together. Maybe she wrote that line.
Sure, but even then,
I still don't like the line. I'm just
I thought
saying.
the
I
line,
don't know.
in fairness, I didn't know that they were actual father-daughter until after I was done watching. And then even in the moment, the first time, it felt a little don't say that. And then knowing
Yeah.
that's his real daughter made it even more of an moment.
It's uncomfortable for sure, and I think when you know, it makes it worse. I mean, but that's a weird thing to say to your kid, man. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah. And she's saying, listen, I'm done being disrespected in my home. And he's like, well, technically it's my home. My mom gave it to me and then I gave it to you. And she's like, yeah, but you tried to default on it. And I'm the one who's been paying the mortgage for all these years. He wanted his mother to go into the senior home or something so he's trying to have the house get taken away.
Yeah, it's weird.
It really
He
paints him
wanted
in a really
he was
bad
putting
light.
his mom to the home
They're
so he could take
really
it over,
hard-
right?
they're
No,
trying
he wanted
really
the
hard
mortgage to get
make you hate
defaulted
him.
on so he could throw her in a senior home because she owned it at the time.
Oh, because we found out he owned a different house after.
And then when she was talking about it, he's like, "Yeah, well, she wouldn't die." It's like, that's your mom.
Well,
I think
we
at
know
this
George
point
didn't get
they-
along with his mom.
Yeah, but I think at this point they realize like he's supposed to be the bad guy, but he's way too likable. Like even us, we're like siding with him for a lot of shit.
Yeah.
They're like, we need to make him terrible, and that's why.
It's like, quick, sexual
All
joke
this
about his
happens.
daughter's ass and he tried to kill his mom. And you're like, I still love you, George.
And then in this argument, she's like, "Hey, also, I'm paying for this house right now, not you. And also, why isn't this kitchen done?" He's like, "I told you the fridge is on back order." She's like, "All right, get another one." He's like, well, you can't. There's like a supply chain thing and the Illuminati.
I mean, that's true, though. Supply
I thought
chain
that was
thing.
funny.
It took a lot of work for us to get a new fridge.
And the
Well, but-
Illuminati.
But despite what
Also,
the
I blame the
Illuminati is up
Illuminati.
to, in reality, we find out that that's not the real problem because he's like, "Just give me the credit card, I'll fix the order, I'll change it, don't worry." He's like, "No," he's like, "I didn't actually put the order in, I couldn't afford it." And we find out that all his credit cards are maxed out and he's broke. And she's like, "Oh, why? Because you were doing all the same things you used to do, right? You spent all your money on all your favorite things, gambling, women, getting drunk." And she's like, "Thanks for letting me down again." He's like, "Let you down? Like, I've always been a good dad to you. I always provided." And she's talking about how, he wasn't a good dad at all and how he left her in front of the fountain at the casino and she thought it was a kiddie pool. And that's when you get that, again, Nick.
Well,
can
no,
talk
I
about
think
it.
he told her it was the kiddie pool.
He
told
told
her
her it was a
he did,
kiddie
yeah.
pool. Yeah, he let her know.
Oh, I'm sorry, I probably said it wrong. I apologize. But yeah, he said to her that it was the kiddie pool and left her there so he can go to the casino. And Nick, like you said before, it's a very George Lopez delivery, but the way he explains, like, well, now you know how to count and swim. Like, it was,
Yeah.
Yeah, I taught you to swim and count change. It's
Yeah,
like,
it-
it's so
it works
hard to
when he says
dislike
it.
him. He's so funny.
Yeah.
So this is where I had kind of an issue with the show, because the mother, jumping forward a little bit further, touches on it as well. That, like, they make him out, so the daughter at the beginning says how she's only gotten back with him for 6 weeks.
yeah.
Right? And how he was never a good dad. And he's now saying in this moment, "Oh, I'm a really great dad." And then when he's at his ex-wife's house, she's like, "Well, you always did put food on the table, and we always had this." So there's kind of this weird duality that, like, the show doesn't kind of know what it wants to be
Well,
right
no,
I
at
think-
this moment.
I think what happened was he was doing all of that, but he was also cheating on her.
Yeah.
So I mean,
wasn't
one
around as
didn't
much
one
and-
didn't justify the other.
He was paying the bills and he was providing for them, but emotionally he was not providing for them.
Okay, because that's might have been the confusion.
Yeah, he didn't
because-
leave them in the dirt, like, with no shelter and stuff like that. Like, he made sure that they physically were okay, but he
Which
was
is-
very into himself. Like, he only really cared emotionally about his own needs.
Which I think is smart in the writing too, because if they wrote it as like, you left with all of our money, mom had to go live in a shelter when we were 12 years old, like that would make you totally dislike George. So I think it's smart
Right.
writing just to be like, look, he was a shithead, but he was doing the other things he should have been. That way you're still like sort of on his side, because you can't make him too much of a villain in the show about him, about him and her, I guess. But either you can't make one Lopez the villain in this scenario.
Yeah, because he's talking about how hard he had it at one point, and it's like, at least you had a dad. Like, my dad was gone. And she's like, well, you can't use your crappy childhood as an excuse to, and how you treat me. And he goes, I can if you're going to act like a bitch. And I was like, whoa.
This is rough.
But what?
This sucks the air out of the room immediately.
That
This
was
is
the
a tough
point, right?
moment.
Like,
Yeah.
he needed to cross the line.
But even before that, other than the joke about the kiddie pool, this whole scene is super serious in a dark way. And it was like they threw that one joke in the middle to try to like lighten it up a little, but overall it was pretty dark there.
But and you know what? I feel like maybe even as a group we might agree that it's too heavy for a pilot, right?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
canceled shows for being dark like this.
Typically,
page.
I would agree. But in this instance, I feel like they're using it as a tool specifically to design the rest of their story, right? And it's not long. It's this 45-second, minute-long scene that they do. It's impactful, and it sets up the entire series or the entire plot of the series,
But I think
right?
To your point, though, Nick, it's also the placement of where this darkness kind of is in the episode, because then they immediately jump to like goofy shit.
Right. Yeah, they got in and they got out.
Yeah. Oh, 2 seconds later, he's like, my chest hurts. I'm having a heart attack. And you're
Well,
like,
listen,
oh, come on,
I mean,
guys.
when you think about it, and we said we've already done George Lopez in the past. This is the reverse, because that was him versus his mom before. And now he's the older one dealing with his 30-something-year-old, I don't know her exact age, but sibling. Daughter, rather. So we're getting it from the other side. It used to be him dealing with his mom and her lack of emotional support. He's just in the other role now. And to compare and to think about that show, and they dealt with some heavy and his mom issues in that first episode, but I don't know if it ever got to that point, and I'd have to think back in the full episode if there was a scene that really did, but I don't think it got this heavy in their pilot episode.
I don't think he did at all, no.
No.
I think the heaviest thing was like, I don't want to tell my mom that I have to let her go from the plant. Like,
Right.
that was like the big thing of that episode.
And even that
This
was like
is-
him loving and caring about her and stuff like that. So.
Right, like she ended up, I think, living with them was she was going to lose her house, so they moved in with her, versus this one where it's like, I guess he's the one moving in with her. Yeah, so it's similar, only this one he doesn't call his mom a bitch, though, which is probably for the better.
He calls her a bitch and then says, like, you're just like your mother. And it's like, a little much dragging her in.
Yeah, then also
Yeah.
just like, it brings the ex-wife in and like shit-talking the mom. That's the daughter's mother. Like, that's tough, too.
And she kicks him out at this point because this was just too much. Calling her a bitch was the last straw. And they do try to button it up with that joke with, it goes back to him thinking Instagram is like weed delivery, and they try to tie that in with him like, oh, if the guy comes with the cartridges. But I don't know, it was a weird place to be like, oh shit, we can't let it end this heavy, so let's throw that joke in there real quick.
Like, we can't go to a
Yeah.
commercial for fucking Pampers right after he calls her a bitch. Like, we have to have something a little funnier, yeah.
FYI, we've brought it up a couple times. She was born in 96, so she's, 25 in this episode? 26?
Okay.
Oh, okay. All right. So she's younger than I thought.
Yeah, same.
She probably doesn't even remember 9/11.
Okay.
The benchmark.
It's honestly the first thing I think of when they were telling their age. They're like, oh, I was born in like 1992. I'm like, probably remember 9/11.
All right.
I'm going to make my psychiatrist notes a little longer.
Add that to the
here.
list. I'll say I do something similar at times when, like, I'm talking to, there's a lot of people at work that are a lot younger because you can be born in 2000 and be 23 years old. So it's, as we get older, and people tell me, like, what year they were born, and someone's like, oh, yeah, I was born in 99. And my brain goes to, oh, man, like, you were born after the NWO formed?
Like, oh, wrestling sucked when you were born. That's a bummer, yeah. Like, when you understood what The Undertaker was, he rode a motorcycle, and that sucks so hard.
So after George is kicked out, the first place he goes to is his ex's house, Rosie's. And we get to her house. She's inside. We get a knocking at the door. It's him. And he's asking if he can stay with her. And he's trying to say, oh, my heart and all this. I'm having chest pains. You're the only person I trust. It's like, me? I'm the only person you trust? Your ex that you cheated on? Like, well, that's not good. And then asks what's really going on. And that's when he comes forward with her and says, I have no place to go. I lost my house.
This is
And
his redemption arc.
And they do. They give him some redemption here. So as bad as he's been and all these bad things he's done, but to his wife, ex-wife rather, and his daughter, he's broke because during the pandemic, he lost 50% of his business. Then he sold his house to make sure that his workers could, feed their kids and stuff. And he maxed out his credit cards just to survive. So he becomes sympathetic here. A lot of roller coaster for a character in this short of a time span, but we're getting the redemption arc right off of that last scene.
I don't like that either, though. The pandemic stuff, because that also just like technology dates the time.
It
of this
does date
episode
it, yeah.
and show.
But to be fair, the pandemic is going to be one of those things that's That's a
It's a
history
dividing line
marker.
forever. Yeah, like no
Yeah.
one's gonna not talk about the year and a half that like the air was poisoned and you couldn't go outside. Like that's kind of
Yeah,
a big thing, right?
I'll overlook that.
She's saying, hey, well, you have to tell her all this stuff. And it's like, oh, I was ashamed to tell her. I didn't want her to lose respect for me. And I loved when Rosie goes, oh, honey, Mayan's never respected you.
It's like you knew it was coming, but she really fucking
Yeah,
nailed that line.
Yeah, it was a good delivery.
What I like about that too, though, is because George does those jokes the whole episode, and then she gets one in too, that you kind of get that when they were married and they were together, that was their whole relationship. And then you kind of want the prequel show where it's just drunken George and Mayan just like quipping at each other. It would be very fun.
And she's trying to explain to her, like, Mayan doesn't care about like gifts and money. Like, she just wants you to be her dad. And part of that's being honest with her. And he's like, honest about everything? Like, I don't know if I can be honest with everything. Well, if you can't, then you're never going to have a close relationship with your daughter. And then I like that he goes, and do you know that she leaves the lights on? And then the two of them start bonding over that. And like, oh
That's
my
pretty
God, no,
fun.
that's such a waste of money. And I'll say, like, that's kind of one of those. And for me, like, my parents split up when I was 12, 13. And like, they have like a weird, like, they get along type of relationship despite, divorcing and all that. And that was one of those, like, coming together because of mutual criticism of their child, I guess is something I can relate to.
It really resonates with you.
It's like whenever they team up, it's like, really now? Like, now you guys can agree on something? So I
That's
did
funny.
like how they kind of like instantly clicked and bonded when they were just talking about how she leaves lights on.
They make a real quick joke here about Judge Joe Brown. And I was like, I haven't thought about him in a while. So I just did like a quick Google on Judge Joe Brown.
Is he alive?
That show
no.
ran for 15 years. And he was like, he came out later on and was like, my salary got way over exaggerated. I only was making $5 million a year. I was like, Judge Joe
is
Brown
that
made
all?
$75 million to host a fucking fake court show. Are you kidding me? We are in the wrong business, boys.
Yeah, let's make our own fake court show.
Yeah,
Judge Mills Lane is the only one I want to reboot.
What's
We'll
funny,
all just
bro?
go, fight
All
on.
those like even Judge Joe Brown, as popular as he was, Judge Judy was so much more popular that like you just don't think of him as much.
Right. I mean, there's a
True.
bunch. I mean, there's, oh God.
And you
there
know
was a
what?
real-
Judge J. Gags could be the next big one.
You give me $5 million a year, yeah, let's do this.
You gotta earn it though.
Even Jerry Springer was doing one before he died. It was Judge Jerry.
I
Yeah.
forgot Jerry died.
yeah, that's right.
There was one that
R.I.P..
lasted for a little while that was only on at like 2 a.m. and any of our fans listening can look this up. His name was Judge Maz.
I thought you were gonna say Judge Mathis. I was like, I
Judge
remember him.
Mathis. There's like Judge Mazzarella. It was like an Italian last name. But it was like,
Was he the Rhode Island guy?
he might
that,
have been.
like,
The whole
is
thing was
super nice?
street justice. He didn't do it in a courtroom. He came to your house,
Oh,
but
no.
only
Oh
outside.
no, that's not what I'm thinking of.
No,
This
I
show
know
was
what we're talking
insane. Like, if you couldn't sleep at like 2 a.m, you'd put on like Fox or whatever and be a guy, be like, I heard you yelling at your neighbor over here. And he's like just a judge in a robe standing in like the bushes with these two neighbors. It was like you couldn't turn it off because it was so insane. And it was, Judge Maz. I forget what it's called, but I hadn't thought about that until we just started talking. That was fucking wild. And I don't think he made $5 million a year.
Is it
But
Maz,
boy, did
like
he deserve it.
M-A-Z?
Yeah, like Mazz. I think it was like Mazzarella.
The one
Mazzarello.
Gordo's talking about is basically, it's a judge from Rhode Island who's overly empathetic and basically lets people commit crimes because they seem like nice people.
He always makes me cry.
Yeah, because he's too nice.
Well, no, there was like one 90-year-old guy.
Yeah, he was
that-
driving his
that-
son to the
Yeah, to
cancer
his-
treatment, and he
yeah,
like
and
blew a
he's
red
like,
light
God
or
bless
something.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, God bless you, sir.
Oh, I
You're
get
still a
I get
dad.
those reels all the time.
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
Instagram.
It makes me fucking cry.
It'll be some
Like,
girl and it'll be like, oh, what happened? Like, you got caught shoplifting? What, do you got a daughter? All right. Don't do it
Yeah,
again.
I think he has like a TV show. I think it's Local Access.
Oh.
That's where all those are from.
Good old Rhode Island.
So in the next scene, we're back at the animal hospital. And we see Duchess's owner. I don't think we ever get a name from her in this episode.
Yeah, she has a name in the show. I think it's maybe Julie, something like that. Juno.
So Julie Juno walks in, and she's here to pick up Duchess. And she's like, oh, is she ready to get picked up? It's like, yeah, she was ready yesterday. So now there's a boarding fee.
Jana.
Jana, okay. She's like, oh, all right, well, but you closed before I was done with my sound bath, so that's kind of not my fault. And this is when Mayan finally like loses it, and she's like, not today. And she's like, pay up, Jana. They do say her name right there.
Yeah.
Pay up, Jana, or Duchess hits the floor. And like she panics because the big threat is that she's going to make the dog's feet touch the ground.
Her
But
dog's
she was
paws
gonna
will
go-
touch the ground at a dog store.
Yes. And she's like, okay. And she has her like slowly bring the credit card over to the desk and to have Brookie ring her up.
She never takes it back either.
The credit card?
Yeah.
I didn't notice.
Now Brookie just pockets it.
Brookie's going.
She swipes right at a shopping spree later.
Well, Brookie tells Mayan like, oh, you're kind of turning me on right now. And then that's when Jana goes, just so you know, kind of turned me on too. So.
Does not play out in a future episode as far as I remember.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
There's a horny Caroline Ray get you going, Joe.
of course.
She's about that age.
Nick, didn't you say that it got you going in the Sabrina
I liked her,
episode?
Yeah,
but
that's
I don't.
right.
I'm not into the older version. I did like her back in the day. Actually, no. I guess that's wrong because when I was younger watching Sabrina, I liked her. So there was a huge
Yeah.
gap there. Yeah.
She's
Natural
funny.
progression.
She's on that, what is it, the last one, the Laugh Show? The
Oh,
one
she's
with
on the
Tom
LOL
Green and
Canada
Colin
one, yeah.
Mockery. And she's pretty funny in that, too.
Yeah. I'm pro Caroline Ray for sure.
Next scene, we get Quentin and Chance in their home meditating together, just sitting on the couch with like their legs in the cross position.
See,
And
this
that's
seems
when-
like the lane Gorda was talking about earlier they didn't take, where it's like they should be like, Mom, more granola, like get an electric car. Like you expect them to have that sort of bent, and
They're
they
not
don't.
enough the roles they're supposed to be. They're like
Yeah.
This
one
is
foot in,
confusing
one
to then
foot
all of
out.
a sudden be like, Namaste, guys. You're like, that doesn't work for you guys right now.
It doesn't know what it wants to be. They
Yeah. And then Mayan and Brookie walk in, and that's when her son's like, shh, we're meditating. Don't mess up my Zen, mommy. And
I will say that did take back a lot of the goodwill of this episode. That one line really hurt my soul a lot.
this is what I thought was a little forced. And she's like, it was like, ding. It's like, wait a what, my dad just sent me a TikTok. And then she sits in the couch and everyone huddles around to watch the TikTok together. Like that's how that would have happened. Like in reality, she would have just like watched it and then showed them after. So something about everyone gathering, like they were just about to read important news and watch like, with a serious look on their face was just a little too much for me.
Yeah, I didn't like that at all. You would just watch it like you said, and then
It just
show
seemed
people.
too much. It just
Forced.
seemed too
Yeah,
much.
it was. It's not a television. Like if it was like he was on the TV, then sure.
Yeah, everyone sits on the couch like, oh my God, look, Dad's on TV. But yeah, this is just like,
Or
he sent me
or-
a TikTok.
or-
Let's all gather.
no, I could see if she was streaming. Like if we want to be like super modern,
Like she's
She
in a
was
Chromecast or
streaming
something, and she
something.
streams to the TV. Yeah,
and then it pops up. Like
I would like
could
that
see
better if she was like,
working.
"Well, play it on the TV," and she like clicks the button, and then the kid's like, "Oh,
Is
you
that
didn't plug
Grandpa?
in the thing." Blah blah blah. Yeah, like, you can have the kid be like younger and like
Yeah,
because
but
they
you-
love
you
putting
wouldn't
kids
do
in shows
that,
like that
though.
being like techie.
because a TikTok is what 20 seconds or like between 20 seconds and a minute. You wouldn't cast it to the TV because
No,
And
no, no,
for
no. What
sure-
what I was saying was is that she should have been watching something like a Netflix or something on Chromecast, and then like a screen mirror, and then have the TikTok pop up like
I
a
don't think you
notification.
needed to do that. I just don't think there was a need for everybody to huddle around her.
Yeah, I think just her watching it would have been fine,
Would've
and
been
then they
fine.
could have made the 8 views joke, and then like Quentin could have been like 9,
Yeah.
like, and you could have been like, oh, okay, you
Those
watch
ways
it now
around.
too.
But anyways, to get into the actual TikTok, we see George, and George is doing the same thing. We're getting the text to speech, robo voice.
No, this is definitely Oscar though.
Okay, so I didn't catch that in the moment. So either way, whether or not
Still
it
don't
is,
think so,
he's
but-
pointing to the text, and it's him admitting all the things that's wrong with him. That he was a bad dad, that he's broke, that he's homeless, and talking about how much his daughter means to him, and that he wants to make it up to her. And now it's him dancing, and he's like, I thought it was funny. I thought him dancing was a little funny.
The mom dancing
Well, mom
with him
kicks
and
in, yeah,
showing
'cause-
him how to twerk.
Because
got
he's like, am I doing this okay? She's like, no, like, like your ass is so flat. And then she's like,
Yeah.
look, you gotta pump it like this. And then when she jumps in to show him how to shake, like
She
she's like
can get it. Like,
she's
She knows how to do it.
She has thrown her ass right into the screen. Like this is this was actually it so much to the point where I was like kind of surprised. She's completely covered. Like she's not, but I thought like I was a little surprised they let her get away with it. Like, or the show get away with like her just blatantly like popping her ass into the screen.
It's pretty aggressive.
One of the TikTok cuts is she's twerking, and then George Lopez is sitting on a chair, like giving the thumbs up. You know, it's a quick little jump, but it's enough to make you go, "What?"
you guys get a small will they, won't they with the
Yes.
divorce
Yeah, for
parents?
No, it's
I
not
could
very
see them-
small.
Yeah, I could see
Alright,
them like having a "oh no, we hooked up again" type of
Yeah.
episode.
And also, like, even if you didn't, she does that twerk, and you're like,
Right? I'm
I mean-
considering it.
Yeah,
a man can only be so strong.
right. And then when that ends, and after she watches her mom shake her ass, she's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe that. He swallowed his pride and was honest." And in front of the whole world, it's like, I mean, I know it started sweet, but it ended on such a note that, like, I don't know if she should have reacted so touched.
I thought it was strange that he didn't say in the TikTok how he's poor and broke for noble reasons. He just kind of says he's poor and homeless.
Because I think it's just a matter
he's
of
like,
him
I'm poor
humbling
and broke
himself.
because I was taking care of the family or whatever.
Because I
Yeah.
think it's almost like you have to just be, hey, I'm flawed. No what ifs, no buts. Like, you're supposed to just be
It's
like,
just at this point she thinks he's broke from gambling and hookers.
I know, but
and
I think
whatnot.
I think it's more important that he just owns up to being flawed and wanting to be better than to make excuses. Because if he makes
Yes.
excuses in the TikTok, it's like it's a different situation. But from there we cut to later on, and it's the two of them are in her kitchen, and they're like sitting there. I think it's like morning. They're having like coffee together. And it's just the two of them. And
Do we think there might possibly be tequila in those mugs, though?
could probably
Could
still
be.
yeah. And he's saying, "You know what, Mayan? Like someday this kitchen's gonna look incredible." And she asks, "Will either of us be alive to see it?" He's like, "Oh no."
I like that.
And then she's telling him about how she finally stood up for herself at work, and how she used the Lopez way. And she was saying, "I spent a lot of money in therapy trying to find healthy ways to avoid getting angry, but sometimes the healthiest thing to do is just scream at a bitch." Bitch, I think was
Amen.
used 3 times in this episode, by the way.
Bitch is oddly used
Yeah,
too much,
George
I think.
loves the
Yeah,
bitches,
once
I
is
guess.
enough.
Is this on television too, or is this just for Peacock?
It's on NBC,
It's
yeah.
on NBC.
Okay. Because I watched it on Peacock.
And then she's, reassuring to him, like, "Hey, listen, if you're staying here, you're going to have to learn how to respect me." And he asked, "Do I have to also respect Quentin, the friendly ghost?"
And then he was like, "Oh, hi, it's me, Michael Jackson, the friendly ghost again. Remember me from a few episodes back, boys? Oh, where's Tito? Oh, is Tito gonna come here and hang out with us?" He said Casper, and I was like, I'm so happy I get to make a reprise of Michael Jackson, the friendly ghost, on the podcast. My favorite character.
Anyways, he's saying how much he'd like to stay and how it's really gonna, it'll be a breakthrough in the eyes of his 8 followers on TikTok. And she says, "Those aren't followers, Dad. Those are Polish sex bots." He says, "That's cool. I don't have a type." And you can see her kind of with that like genuine smile in that moment.
Yeah, that seemed almost ad-libbed right there.
I mean, that's what he's so good at, right? Is just like tossing one quick line after, and just it's always gonna land.
And as he's leaving the room, he's like, "Oh, and can you turn off the light real quick?" And when he turns it off, she reveals that she bought a nightlight. So there's a little bit of compromise going on now. And he's very touched by that. And then he's like, "Oh," he's like, "that's going to save you so much money. Also, you're going to buy me a house and you're going to need a fridge. And we found some mold under the floor, but we'll take care of it. Good night."
Mold's not cheap, and neither are fridges.
No.
Neither is a house.
Neither
Yeah,
are
neither's
houses.
a
Yeah,
house.
I can attest to all of these things.
I think this would have been a good closing point. We say this a lot, but we do get that little after scene. But
I wish we didn't get the after scene.
you got to
Me
remember,
too.
sometimes it's one of those.
Ah,
It's the,
I don't know.
It's the NBC, like kind of the modern sitcom. you get that long commercial break and just that like 30-second scene that like leads
It's the lead into the next show. Yeah.
But like, so whatever. So in that we get George and Chance are both in their room because now they're sharing bunk beds. Chance wants Grandpa to read him like a scary story. And he's like, well, last time you got too scared and you ran to your mom. And that guy that keeps saying he's your father, which again, like, dude, you gotta relax. He's like, come on,
He's
I
a little
won't
harsh
cry.
on him.
Yeah, he's like, I won't cry, please. He's like, oh, did I ever tell you about the one? I'm not gonna butcher this word, but he
La
says,
Lorena.
what does that mean?
It's a move. Well, they made a movie about it in the Conjuring universe, but it's like in Mexico, there's like a woman that drowned her kids, and then she's a ghost, and she'll come for your kids. I'm probably butchering the story, but that's
pretty much
basically
that's close to Ferg, yeah.
So he says that, or the man who was born with an owl body.
Which is crazy because have you ever looked up what an owl looks like without its fur?
Yeah, they have
I
long
have.
legs.
It's fucking crazy.
the
so
legs are
funny.
creepy.
Wild.
Anybody who's never looked at an owl without its fur, your mind will be blown away.
It
I mean,
did
it's
end with a
feathers,
nice-
right? It's not fur.
It's all feathers, yeah.
It ended with a nice tie-in because after that he goes, "Mommy," and he runs down the hallway to go to his parents' room, and George yells, "See how easy he finds you in the dark?" And then we get Lowrider for the second time, which I thought we didn't need it there.
I did get a laugh though that he's sleeping and sharing a bedroom with his grandson, but he still has a bed beer. Like that got me like
Yeah.
a genuine laugh too.
Yeah.
The owl line got me when the kid was running. That got me. I giggled. It did its job.
The man with the owl body is a pretty funny, like
Yeah.
folklore-y thing to say to a kid.
So that was like the close of the episode, and there is one thing. Like I said, I wanted to cycle back to this. You know, we mentioned the whole cast of the original George Lopez Show had a cameo on like the Christmas episode.
Yeah.
And I just, after I watched the episode, I tried to not go ahead, but I saw that was like a clip when I was just Googling the show to get like little factoids and stuff. So I watched it. It was just like a minute or two long clip. And one thing that I thought really did flag me in watching that, and this is just having these old characters return, like his old wife and the one who played his mother. I just thought that those actors and their chemistry seemed so much more, I don't know,
Regular
it felt
sitcom
better.
chemistry.
Yeah, it felt better
Yeah.
even seeing them in that quick moment. They seemed like the direct comparison made the new family not seem as good, even though it's his
That's-
real daughter.
that's
Yeah, I think
ironic
that's just
'cause it's the real
nostalgia
daughter.
winning. Is all that is.
I don't
I
know,
think
man. I'm telling you,
I'm with
watch
Nick.
it, you'll see.
I'm with both of you equally. I mean,
I can.
and
Yeah,
I've
I
seen
can.
it too.
I understand it.
Because I'm not someone who is like watching a ton of the original George Lopez Show. Like I've seen
Well,
it, but
I've watched a lot of it, and it did get me nostalgia pangs for sure. And I forget if it's his mom or his wife, but one of them immediately is like, "What's going on with your hair?" Which I thought was like a very funny joke to put into it because he looks so different from that show.
I've thought about this a lot. I don't know if I've ever actually specifically brought it up on here, but like you have your older shows, like we've covered a lot of them at this point, you know, and you have your newer and like Full House, for example, who has an old one and a new one. Like, and I feel like what Jay's talking about kind of meets this. They're done differently now. Right? Like the sitcom
Yeah,
format
style is
is
different.
as a shell, it's the same format, yes. But they're doing something different. I can't put my finger on exactly what that is. I feel like they're panning for the reaction, or I don't know what it is, but they're doing something different, and I think that plays a lot into how we feel about old shows versus new shows. And it's less about nostalgia, which is what I just said, but less about nostalgia and more about how it's done. Like I think it's just done differently in a way that it doesn't feel the same.
Yeah, but we're talking chemistry. The chemistry they don't have is strange.
Right, but that could go to how they're producing it. You know what I mean? Like
And a different
why?
type of show too.
yeah.
I mean, like with Married with Children being the sort of big example that like they wouldn't let other shows really work as being dirty. Look at Bless's House that we watched, where he's like, "I'm a mailman and everybody's a hooah." You're like, "All right, Dice Clay, this is funny, but like they're gonna cancel you right away. Like this will never happen." And now they've found a way to like mix the two together.
I think too that it doesn't matter the style, right? Like like this, the production style doesn't matter whether it's a new one, a new type
I'm not
of
really
sitcom
talking
or an
production
old
style
type.
either, though.
I think Nick is
the
talking about
format-
like the style, the way it's filmed, the way it's edited, the way the characters
That's what I
interact
was
with each
talking
other.
about.
I will say the show had more of that classic sitcom vibe, though, than a lot of the other newer ones that we tackle.
Yeah, oh yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
one thing I did want to say about this that I was going to put in my green light or cancel is that one of the things I liked about this, looking at my notes, I always do a line break when the scene changes. Like a new paragraph, right? And there's so many of those in this. I loved that. They came in, they're quick, they make a funny joke or they do a thing, and they're on to the next scene, which felt very much like a classic sitcom.
Yeah.
But the plot and the premise felt much more like a modern sitcom.
What I was gonna end with was, if the show is good, it's good, right? It doesn't matter that, like, how many Office type shows have we seen, mockumentary style, that have not been good,
Right.
right? 3-panel sitcoms that we've seen that have not been good.
And I feel like
Modern
the good
sitcoms.
ones are the ones who are staying closer to however it was done before.
Not
But
necessarily. I
they've
think you
been
can
no,
succeed in
because
any
look
format.
at The Office.
No,
Look
I
at The
get what
Office.
Gordo's
That was
saying, yeah.
revolutionary.
You don't have to follow a set of
Yeah,
rules to
okay,
make
yeah,
it
yeah.
work. It's just, if it's good, it's good. I get what Gordo's saying. But in any event, we've talked about this for quite a bit, and at this point, we might as well do the green light or cancel. So I'm going to go in the order. I see you guys in. Joe, starting with you.
Yeah, so I just mentioned, right, I do love the format of the sitcom, right, where it's scene, new scene, scene, new scene. You're not stuck in one place too long, which works for some shows and doesn't for others. I do really stand by I think this has a very modern, all-in-the-family feel to it, and I think they do that well without feeling like they're clinging to trying to stick to a specific archetype so much. It's just inspired by and sort of takes a lot of the riffs from. And again, like we said earlier, I hate modern references, especially things that'll date it, especially social media or things I don't understand. But I think that having George as our, or not our, but as the audience's sort of proxy for those things, especially if you don't like them, makes it funnier, right? That he's like, what is this? And then him trying to do it makes it funnier too, and you kind of get why he does. It makes him bend. I've watched all of the show. I really do enjoy it. I'm excited for when it comes back, whenever TV shows ever come back again. So it's fun. It's a green light for me.
Ferg.
It's a cancel for me. All the stuff Joe said, the opposite. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't like a lot of the rapid fire. How they would do a scene, it would be really short, and then cut to another scene right away. I didn't feel very much chemistry. I didn't like the dirty father-daughter stuff. And I was just bored for a lot of the episode. It just didn't do it for me. And I love George Lopez. I thought him, and I surprisingly thought the little kid was a pretty good actor. And I tend to hate child actors. I don't think his daughter was very good. I didn't like her husband either. So it's a cancel for me.
Nick.
I do agree with Ferg. Wasn't a big fan of the daughter. Just didn't really seem to mesh. Nor her husband, also, or boyfriend rather, whatever he is. I could see myself coming around on both of them, though. And like I said earlier, I do have a big soft spot for George Lopez. I really do think he's incredibly funny, and I just, and putting that aside, I think there's enough to this actual story here that I want to come back and see more. I mean, I can't ignore that I enjoyed his other shows, so that there's something there that's going to want to keep me coming back to watch more too. But just on this one alone, I like George's character. I like the story that they're building to keep George around in this family, I guess. I like the his ex-wife is really good. There's just a lot of good. The writing struggles, which was my main thing, I think, with this, was like, it was just a little too cheesy at times, which I think is maybe my main problem with newer sitcoms. Like, there's a lot of cheese. But I feel like that will work itself out along the way, but who knows? I mean, I would have to keep watching, but as of right now, it's a green light for me. I want to keep going with it.
Gordo.
This has probably been the most on the fence I have been in a long time about a show. I didn't really like it. I didn't like Mayan. I don't know if this is her first acting role or anything, because, I do so much extensive research before this that you'd think I'd be able to find that information.
You could have used the device you were watching the episode on to look
Well,
up
no,
where-
because the device that I use, it doesn't
screen was
put
busy.
It in the yes, exactly. I feel like the show is going to get better and is going to get funny. Like George Lopez, he is funny. Like I said, I don't particularly like
What
this
is literally
episode.
deciding right now?
I am, because I could go either way. And, I think that the show is probably going to get better, and that there's enough groundwork there that I'm going to greenlight it. That's what I'm going to do. I'll be more harsh on episode 2, but I'll give them the first episode jitters that there's enough there.
All right, but keep in mind, you're supposed to judge on episode 1.
But there's enough there in episode 1 that made me like it, but there's equally enough stuff in episode 1 that made me dislike it. Like, I know, like,
Tie goes to the runner.
I just don't like her, but she clearly is like a good actor, and she has some funny comedic timing.
I feel like you almost said the polar opposite a minute ago about her, but
Yeah.
did.
You're like, I don't like her, but she's a good actor. And
she's
has
a good
timing.
actress.
but
She's
I-
super funny.
I don't know if this is her first acting job or what.
But
I
boy, does
don't
she have
know.
it down.
It's not. She's been acting for. She hasn't done a lot. She's done like 6 things in between, but it's not her first.
I don't know. I wish I could push,
Well, in any
because
event,
this would be so greenlight. I'm greenlighting it.
That's fine. So as far as I go, I'm actually siding with Ferg. So I was a little conflicted. So when I watched it twice. The first time I watched it, I didn't like it at all. When I rewatched it to take my notes and stuff, I started to come around to it a little bit more, and I was catching more of the nuances. And like I said, watching it a second time, you're catching little hints in the writing for things that are coming out later. So I realized the writing was a little more clever than I realized. But I don't know, it just didn't really click with me completely. I thought that heavy scene was a little too much in that middle there. It wasn't quite fun enough. I needed a little bit more than we're fixing the kitchen for episode 1. I don't know. It's one of those shows that if people all like it, I didn't hate it, so I wouldn't be opposed to watching more if people guided me in that direction. But my gut instinct the first time I watched it, it wasn't really for me. I thought it needed a little bit of work. It just didn't seem like it was refined enough. It kind of felt like, oh, it's George Lopez, we trust him. And I just felt like they didn't really put enough time to completely hash everything out. They just kind of let him do whatever he wanted, and it was what it was. And he's funny enough to get you pretty far, but it just wasn't, I just needed a little bit more. So with that being said, that's still 3 out of 5. So congratulations to Lopez versus Lopez. You live on to see another day with us. I want to remind you all to go to S1E1pod.com. That's where you can find all the links to all our social medias. S1E1pod on Twitter, or now X, and Instagram. Hit us up, talk to us, leave us some reviews. Those do us big favors, so we very much appreciate it. I said this before, I meant to say it at the top of the episode. Leave us a review, send us proof that you did it. We will follow you back on any social media you're choosing, as long as we have it. And that is just our small way of saying thank you. So in any event, thanks guys for listening. We'll catch you again next week with another episode. Thank you. Goodbye.
I think we got the best Rosie twerking.